Ko te moko ko te Māoritanga. Mā te mau moko ka whakakite atu koe I tō tino ngākau Māori.
The symbols are mairano, they're ancient, and they connect us to things that are ancient in our world. It's not just about ink on your face.
You know, the face is kind of the last taboo, and people feel really threatened by it.
I'm not the weird one. All you fellas are.
Pātana te hui ki tō kiri, koeira te mutuna. Kāre koe kaha ke te kui te rā ke makere.
You know, moko's become one of the defining characteristics about how the nation sees itself and how it projects itself outwards.
You know, we're trying to bring this taonga back from the brink of extinction.
What it represents is a self-affirmation of cultural identity.
When it comes to kanohi, moko kauai and puhoro, I think this is the last bastion of our identity that should remain with us.
Moko, for our people, was the way of saying, I'm here and I'm beautiful.
Koina te taonga I mahue mai a tātou mātua tipuna ki a tātou. E rangi kei roto I te toto a te Māori.
Moko is really an opportunity to sew back into your skin the things that are actually important to you.
E tohu tērā mo te whakapapa me te kaupapa o te tangata. Ngā tangata katoa ka whai whakapapa, o te mahanga no ngā tangata ka whai kaupapa.
Moko to me is exciting because we can bring back and restore something of our culture that was almost lost. I look at the faces of our ancestors in photographs and paintings, and I'm still in awe of what I see.
Look across the world at all First Nations peoples, they do that in one way or another.
In Hawaii, they call it kako. In Samoa, they call it tato. In other islands, there's variations of that similar sounding word. But here in Aotearoa, we call it moko.
Kiau nei I moia tahi ai tēnei āhuatanga o te moko I roto I te moa nanu I aki.
Tahiti and the Cook Islands, everything revolves around the sea. When we get to Aotearoa, Tāne Mahuta, the forest, plays an important role.
When our people first arrived here in Aotearoa, because we were so isolated in the furthest south of the Pacific, the art form itself actually started to evolve.
Ka hai tia te whenua, ka hai tia no hoki te kiri o te tangata.
E mi ana ki o tātou tuakana o roto o Hamo, Tahiti, Raiatea, e rā whinua katoa Hawaii, e mau nei i nā tohua o tātou mātua tipuna. Hoi anō, ki au nei, i ahu mai te kupu Moko i te haitanga o te whenua tō tātou atua tipua, aru au moko ake. E hoki ana ki ngā paki waitara a Mataora rāua ko Niwareka. E hoki ana ki te ao rarohenga, ki te ao wairua, ki te wāhi, i poi ai te mauri o ruau moko.
He rereke, he nui anō hoki ngā kōrero mo te orokuhanga o te moko. Tērā pea, ko te whakawhaia i potanga o Mataora rāua ko Niwareka te kōrero e mōhi o whānui tiana. No te ao wairua, no rarohenga a Niwareka. Ā no te ao tūroa a Mataora. Na te pūhaehaetanga o Mataora, ka patua e ia a Niwareka. Ko te hokinga tērā ona ki rarohenga. He tino pauri no Mataora ka heke atu ia ki rarohenga, ki te rapu i tōna wahine, kia riro mai anō iaia tōna ngākau. He mea peita tōna moko ki te ngārahu, hei whakapūrotu iaia anō. Ka riria Mataora e te iwi o Niwareka. He whakawhiu kētā rātau ia Mataora i whakawhiwhia ai ki te moko. Ko te whainga kētanga, ko te matenga o Mataora o te patunga o Niwareka. Ki tonu ana Mataora i te hina pauri i te kōrehu. Nā te matua o Niwareka, nā uetonga te moko o Mataora i whakatūturu ai, he mea tā ki te wihi. Nā waira, kātahi ka hono anō a Niwareka rāua ko Mataora. Ka hoki rāua ki te ao tūroa me te taonga nei, me te moko. He rereke tā tēnā iwi, he rereke tā tēnā iwi, mo te orokohanga o tēnei mea, o te moko.
Ko te kōrero i rono hau ki te āhuatana o te moko nei. Koe nei te kanohi o tāne, ko tāna mata, ko tāna kanohi. E rere ana ko te manu tērā pātare ana ki te huarahi. Koe ra te kōrero i a tūhoe ko te tīwhana. Ira atua he ira tanata. We rā kōrero, ara atu pēr te tino pānui o tērā o e rā kōrero.
Ki roto i oku ake whakaaro, te wāhanga e mau nei i te wairu o tērā whare i ro katoa atu i a Niwareka. Te wāhanga i riru i a Mataora ko te mahi anake.
So we have the narratives around Mataora and Niwareka, and for me, they lay a whole lot of other value systems down.
The need to take care of our taonga, our wahine. You know, it was Niwareka and her family that gave the gift to Mataora.
I hara mai katoa ngā wāhine ki te whakaora i te kanohi o Mataora. I hara ko te tāne. Nō reira, nā te aroha o ngā kui o te rao rarohenga i ora e Mataora. Ko te tohu, e aku titero ki aku titero, ko te tohu e mau nei i taku kanohi, he tohu whakama. Ka ki mai etahi, he tohu rangatira, engari e mōhio ana hau, he tohu whakama, he tohu whakaiti. Kia noho au ki tēnā puna o te aroha, ki te kia Niwareka.
There's been a lot that actually has been lost. We have to sift through all this information that is left and find the truth in it.
Raitiana o te ture me te hoko pū. Koe ranga take i kino te ngaro o te moko i wainga nei a tātai.
Ko pākea ke te o tātou āhuatani. Nā te mea kua hohou ke te pākea tani i roto i te nākau o te tanata. I tērā ki te takahi te āhuatana o a tātou ngā taonga tuku iho.
The decline in Moko is like the rest of Polynesia, you know, the colonization, the missionary influence.
Christianity had a huge part to play in the decimation of Moko, and in some ways still does.
Ko tō rātou kauhau ki te iwi, me kore e mau anō i te moko.
We were taught and indoctrinated to believe that our carvings on our meeting houses were ungodly, were things that we should no longer have in our presence. I do think some of that fear remains. I think we're still unpicking, undoing many, many layers of being told that skin carving isn't right.
One of the last tipono in our family that wore full-face moko, he was exceptional because not only did he have full-face moko and a very good one, but he hadn't been beheaded and exported. Because that's what was happening to a lot of people with moko.
Māori preserved the heads of the dead. It was part of our culture. It had always been part of our culture, where one, you preserve the head of a loved one in order to mourn and cherish over them, and the other was you preserve the head of an enemy in order to revile and ridicule them. They weren't being traded between iwi here in Aotearoa. They were being traded from here out into overseas. They started with Cook. That was when the first trade for an upoko occurred.
And then when the museums wanted one, then it became a fashionable thing for people to have them on their mantelpieces. People don't realise just how many there are. The export was in their thousands.
The trade of moko mokai was actually driven by the desire from Europeans, British, Americans, Russians to obtain heads of Māori, particularly by the fact that they were tattooed. So that was their main interest. With the arrival of Europeans and the discovery of the musket, the northern tribes who obtained those muskets first, and so then they would travel the North Island on raids. Māori soon figured out that we can't beat the musket with our weapons, so we need to get muskets ourselves. You know, there was that urgency to obtain them at any means necessary.
One moko mokai could be made in a matter of days, and that would be the equivalent to two muskets and ammunition.
I etahi wā tonu ka tīmata e rao ngā iwi e whawhai ana, ki te kimi haere i ngā rangatira e mau moko ana, mau mataora ana. I te patu i a rātou, i te poro o rātou kaki, te me te hoko anō hoki o rātou upoko, ei hoko pū.
An art form that was all about reverence and about people attaining a higher state, and was the most tapu thing we could do to each other, suddenly became debased. Heads became worth money. Even to this day, we're still trying to deal with the echoes of the thousands of people that were beheaded and preserved in the name of musket warfare.
Nā reira, ko tērā tonu o ngā mai, ka ahua mataku tonu te tangata kia tāngi ai tōna kanohi ki te moko mataora, mea ka hara mai te tai tangata ki te poroto kaki. Nā reira, ka ahua ngaro I reira te mataora.
The Tohunga Suppression Act was introduced and promoted by the 4 Māori members of Parliament in their day. And what people really need to understand is that it was important and it was also oppressive. But it was nothing whatsoever to do with moko as a practice. It had everything to do with a political agenda in Māori communities. That decline of the art form came about from people migrating in their thousands from the remote areas of Aotearoa and into the cities, where we were coming to work in another iwi's territory. But in those communities from which the urban workers came, there was still wahine maumoko. The old ladies were still there. People become so much engaged with the idea of oppression and victimhood that they don't really see, and what we continued to achieve despite stuff like that. During the extraordinary years of Tame Poata, he and other practitioners, but particularly Tame, was actually inscribing the faces of women all over the Eastern Bay of Plenty and Waikato and the East Coast. He was doing up to as many as 20 over a weekend. He was doing that work without interruption, without government sanction during the period of the TSA.
Ko tērā ko hoki ko tōku tipuna a Tame Pōta, ko tētahi atu ko wero, ko tētahi atu ko heroini. Nā reira ka whai haere hoki ne mātou o e nei rā i wāratau tohu. Ngā pito kōroroi i mahu e tonu mai i a rātou.
I harau te pātai e tahi o nā korau ane. Pehau o whakaaro ki mo te maumoko. Ka ki mai te kau mātua i a waihotia. E mea sau. Hea hai, pēnā koina te kōrero, no reira kaua tātou e pātere, kaua tātou e haka, kaua te mō teata. Hoa, e oriti te rao.
I tohe mai ngā iwi mō tēnei hokitanga mai o te moko ki wanganui i a tātou.
We had our fair share of naysayers, but as much negativity we had about bringing moko back, we had twice as much positivity in terms of, yes, do it.
There has never been a time ever in the Māori world when there was not a marked female face carrying the kauai moko. It never vanished. It's still here. We're still here.
If it had not been for their courage, and if it had not been for their fortitude, their mana to sort of carry on receiving the moko kauai, we may have gotten to a point where the art form itself may have been lost.
You know, I have an enduring love and respect for them, you know, just because, well, it wasn't an easy journey. You know, some of them were quite devout Christians, but what I loved about them, man, is they were staunch.
The tattooist is worthless without the clients, without the person willing to lay down on the table and take it. The tattooist is nothing. So the backbones of moko, in my opinion, has always been our women.
It was largely women in the initial years of reclamation of moko kanohi who took that reclamation on.
You didn't see any men really feature in that revival period of the 1920s, let's say.
For the mataora and the male facial, they definitely had a complete sever. But the women and the kauai carried on.
I kite au ia rānu, ia hau rānu e nuhi anu. Pake ki hia mai roto u ātoki. Kore au ia nāpera. Mata o, e hai koe moko hiai. O nā korau o kui e te kōreo. Nā te mei hara mai te korau a tame poata i ki kone i ruatoki.
Ko tame poata te ringaringa nāna i tā i te kauai o taku tipuna kuia. Āhua te kauma rima pēr te pakeke, te kauma ono pēr te pakeke.
Tame poata kia au e korau i tau taku kōka. Taku rongo, nā waku kui o te teko i kōrua. Nā, mea ki e kōtiro tonu ara. Kauma ona. E pāle ki wera moko, e pērā ki te tapu. Ala ka tau mai, te tohunga. Me tala hoa, a te ao kapurangi. O tame poata tonu i aia nā karaki, ana ko te ao kapurangi o ki me te nā karaki. E wai ata kene, e pāle ki wera moko, e pērā ki te tapu. Ka kore he karakia ka te, e tiki pene lohona, tui atua iki. Naka mea koe te mea tuatai, raka haere rā tau e me, e wini ana, nā kui ana, e tiro ana te mea, ana e rene ana o ki nā toto, ana te mamai, ana ko te mahi a te ao kapurangi, e whakanāwani atu.
I did the very first uhi, which is chiseled in, and tamped in, which is really painful.
A tohunga called hokotahi drew my pattern. Then I lay down. Another tohunga, taiwera, tapped the chisel into my chin and made the blood run. This chisel had jagged edges like a saw. It was tied to a bent stick. The blood was wiped away. The pigment was pressed into the cuts. It took from morning to evening. When my moko was finished, they lit a fire. They fetched leaves and warmed them over the fire before applying them to my moko.
My great-grandfather, Takurua Tamarau, he sent my grandmother, Kararaina, to receive her kauai from Tamepoata. When she arrived up there and she saw, the moss was all bloody and the cries and the pain, and she decided that it wasn't for her, that she wasn't going to have it done. So when she went back to Ruatoki, my great-grandfather was not happy with her. He wanted her to do the karanga. The sad part about that was he actually gave the right to karanga to another family.
We had different types of process. The most common was achieved by using uhi, or chisels. But with Māori, there was also certain stones, so that the blade itself was like a scalpel, and that sliced and penetrated, so that the process looks like scarification, and it is scarification. And it was that process that was so different from Samoa, Hawaii, Tahiti, and Southeast Asia.
The chiselling of the face, that is our distinction in Polynesia, really. That's what makes people so fascinated by the idea that people are carving the face.
In the pursuit of uhi work, making any incision, and especially the type of incision that uhi make, doesn't take much for things to not go right. So it was pretty gratuitous, they were deep. When you look at our tupuna, posts heal, even those incisions are still 3 to 4 mil deep then. That's a serious operation. And what we do know is that people died.
In the late 18th century, Cook and his mates turned up and they brought metal that transformed the face of Māori on the realisation that the sharpness could be maintained in a way that you couldn't get with stone and bone. As a chief aged, it was important to maintain one's glamour and gravitas. That meant you had your skin reopened. You did it again and again and again. And I think, my God, they must have been brave.
I ngā tau 5 te kau, 3 te kau, I roto I rā te kau tau, kāre te moko e tino ki te ana.
Moko wasn't something that was practiced. It was just something seen in pictures and books and paintings. I didn't even think that I'd ever see it.
Men's facial moko was terrifying for some Pākehā people. You know, you look at some communities struggle with people speaking Māori. Well, you stick a fella in there, you know, with a full facial moko, man. That tips them over the edge.
Tangohia te taura I taku kaki, kia waiata au I taku waiata.
Well, you know what? I'm Māori. I don't need permission to wear my moko. It's part of my DNA. It's part of my history. It's part of my whakapapa. The day that you were born gave you the right to wear moko.
Years ago, walking around with moko was the most overt thing you could do to express your identity Māori.
Mid-80s, early 90s, it really started kicking off. Māori were starting to express themselves externally.
I roto I ngā wari te kau, tīmata I te rao ngā tīma whakapūmau I te reo Māori.
That period saw, of course, ngā tamatoa, the te reo Māori movement, and the very first really major Māori performing arts competitions.
E maha ngā mahi tino rangatiratanga te Māori I te rāua.
As Māori were urbanised, they were starting to share stories, they were starting to be exposed to the world, they were starting to become politicised by that media and by what was happening, and they were the ones engaging.
Appropriate action will be taken against every person who fails to obey these warnings. This is Māori land, people.
It was all part of this kind of struggle back then, you know, to sort of like fight for a place.
We've come from that experience into this different narrative where our work has been shown alongside Hellenistic, Greek artworks, you know, and some of the greatest works from different cultures in the Metropolitan Museum, and they're talking about how amazing it is.
The way that show was received in the States was seminal in the way we saw ourselves. Yeah.
And I think the Renaissance itself, there was this whole kind of combustion of cultural identity. And I guess the celebration of that was moko.
Young people like myself, this is something I want to revive. To me, it's an art that no other people can better. You know, I don't know why the elders let it disappear.
While moko was asleep, the carvers were actually keeping the moko designs, you know, alive.
And I was like, well, you know, I don't want to be a tattooist, you know. I'm a carver and that's what I do and that's what I'll be doing for the rest of my life. But the moment that needle hit that skin, I thought, wow, this is amazing. This is something really, really special.
Rua noi ho mātai mahi ana I tērā wā. Ko te nui ngō mātou, he kāhui kai whakairo ke mātou.
In that first contemporary wave, we have a number of students from the New Zealand Māori Arts and Crafts Institute and from the carving school. They came from a really refined and extraordinarily disciplined school of excellence. And I think that's why their work is so good.
Fortunately, we've got people like Mark and Derek.
Rangi skipper, Hemi Tapeti.
Ricky Manuel.
Gordon Toy Hatfield.
Te rangi tū Netana, Te rangi Kaihoro and Inia Taylor. That was the first wave of the modern Renaissance.
All of the ones in the first generation, you know, they were all multi-talented, multifaceted, and juggled many balls.
We were always doing moko on the carvings, and they were the same patterns as you see on our tipuna.
Te uruatanga me pātai ana te nui ngā reti hiau i te rātohu. Ko te mate, ko te nui ngō mātou te hunga whakairo e mōhiu ana mātou no te hia iwi. Nā wai hoki tēnā tohu te pūtake kāre mātou i whakai ki te nui ngō wālātou tono.
In the beginning, they just kept on finding ways that they could get together, because that's what was exciting, when they were all together and bouncing ideas and even talking about what tools and machinery.
The biggest challenge was access to gear. All of us at the beginning were making our own gear.
There are some really great memories of that first wave. You know, you felt like you were like breaking ice, you know.
Oh, well, it was incredibly exciting, actually. The thing that brought us together was the national collective, Tāwāhi.
Yeah, a lot of the amazing Tāmoko artists were there. So we were sharing stories and talking and discussing, debating in a friendly kind of way to further our way of thinking.
So as a collective, we would have our own wānanga, basically, and we would run a kind of papa moko where we would do people whoever wanted to be done.
And each piece that these artists would do would blow my mind because it's something that I've never seen before.
Ko ngā wānanga I whakatūria mai a Uncle Mark, ko Uncle D anō hoki I reira. Ko ngā wānanga I whakatūria a Uncle D, ko Uncle Mark hoki I reira. Nā rāua tahi tērā whakāhurutanga ki runga I a tātou. Whai ngā takahanga a tāme poata.
Your father must have been the last tohunga Moko in New Zealand.
He was the very last tohunga for tattooing Moko.
Yes.
He was the last one that tattooed them.
Nā wana tama e rua a poraurangi rā ko te kani a takirau au I tohu. Me te ki mea te kani a takirau kei te whakapātu hoki tetahi tāri ana ki te rapa kōrero I aia. Ana ko te tāri ana tērā ko Derek Lardeli. Nā reire I tono mai te karaua rā te kani a takirau ke haere ngātahi ai māua ki reira ako ai I aia I ngā kōrero e mautonu ana I te karaua rā. I te kore e makere mai e rā tohu ki au ko he katoa ki o mātou mai.
So in the early years of Moko resurgence, in the main part it was our men who were taking up the tools again and doing the initial years of work. So I really want to acknowledge that there were a few women who were brave, who took up the tools and who did the work in the face of some of our men saying this is not women's work.
There had to be female practitioners. They were part of a consistent and revered tradition, and I challenge anyone that will say otherwise.
When I started, there weren't many wahine practitioners, if any, that I knew of that were actually working every day.
I think the idea that women didn't do moko is always floating around there. And I think we felt a sense of this has to happen.
It wasn't the actual tā moko practitioners that were questioning whether a female could also practice. It seemed to be people that were a little bit removed who were wanting to have a big opinion about who should and who shouldn't. And it was a great thing that the men who were practicing rallied around people like Christine and Julie and encouraged them to keep going.
I ngā tau whitu te kau, e rua ngā poi Pākehā, ko Roger Hingerton rā ko Mervo Kona. Ko te mea tunu e Pākehā hoki rāua, kare rāua moe ki ngā tohua te Māori. Nā reira ko ngā tāngata e hiahia nei tērā wā, ki te mau I te moko ka heria o rātou nei tuhi ki tērā tokorua.
I feel that we owe Roger a great deal as Māori.
He was really supportive of Māori doing Māori designs, you know, moko.
I enjoy doing those forms, you know, they're beautiful.
One of the person that should be mentioned was Mervo Kona, whom we know inscribed the faces of a number of women, some of whom are still on the marae, on the concert stage today.
Ko te ringa tā he Pākehā, engari ko te tohu he Māori. Me te tangata mau he Māori. Nā reira he moko tērā.
When Roger was about to do his very first kuia Māori and his very first kauai, our tohunga said to Roger, well, we'll do the work and you just use your hands. And he understood exactly what was going on.
I tērā wā, mō tēnā tokorua, he pai kia au. Ki te kore rāua, mei kore rāua, ka kore e ora. Mō tēnā tūmomo wā.
Tribally, I believe that tā moko had already started. I know in Tūhoi, they were practicing moko long before the actual Renaissance kicked off.
They were reviving it before it kind of opened up nationally.
It literally was reopening that door that had nearly been shut.
In that first wave, there were also swells of energy happening in the prisons and in the gangs. And in a way, they were parallel.
You kind of look back on those days and think they were the great old days of being a gang member?
Yeah. I reckon those are choice days. The gangs were, in hindsight, kind of responsible for a resurgence in facial moko.
Me te kite anō ki te āhua tano nā tāne kai roto I nā kēne. Pēnei nā Black Power, nā manaru, kahato rātau nā tūtui o rātau nā kanohi te kuri, I nā kupu āhua rere kēnei.
They were already exploring the designs, particularly on the face. And they were braver because they already saw themselves as not fitting in.
Pēnā tunu ko ngā tāngata e mau here ana, I roto I te whare here, o rātau pi te mahi a rātau mahi.
And it sometimes might get overlooked because we don't want to sort of, oh, you know, those bloody ho-hos. But that, you know, they're part of our society.
Engari, nā rātau ki tōku whakaoro, nā rātau I whakatuma te āhua tana o tātou. O mātou tērā, nā te mea, kaere koe ira te kanohi tika, kaere koe ira te āhua tika. Me whai tātou ki tērā e harane, tērā ka wānana mātou ki a mātou anō. Tērā ki te whakarere ki ke hoki mai anō te tāone korea ke ne koe.
For me as the artist, I'm thankful it happened, you know. I'm thankful that the bros decided, let's, you know, society. We'll tattoo our faces and we'll reclaim our traditional designs. I say good on them. But there had to be a moment where kaupapa-driven Māori had to have that same courage.
Koe rei te nui ngō rātou e kōrero mai ki aua mō ngā tohu. Pākupaku nei e ngaro atu I Waenganui ngā tohu o te kenge, kei reira te tei tohu Māori, ko tāna tunu e kōrero whānui ana, ko te wāhi pakupaku a te tohu Māori. Taku rongo I etahi o rātou, mō ngā mea Māori, I roto I ngā kenge. Hei hehe anō nō rātou, ki te mau I tō rātou, o rātou tipuna.
I think it was us who kept it alive. You know, all the so-called gangsters. We're not gangsters, we're just whānau. Our tāmokos might not look that pretty as our Burupa wahine with their moko kauai, but it's all the same. You know, we were expressing ourselves.
To me, I would consider that they're moko because they're being honest to who they are. They're representing what they stand for and what they believe in. Same with the Rastafarian guys from Ruatoria, I believe that their moko was moko, even though they were putting all the Rasta sort of words and emblems in there. I guess that's kind of like an evolution of the old traditional ways, but they're being, you know, staunch to their kaupapa.
Kia ora, New Zealand, all the way from the East Gate.
Yeah, well, it was in the late 80s when we started doing the moko in prison. When we started putting the moko on, we put God's name upon our foreheads. Our heads we give to Jah. People's advice to us was, don't do it, bro. Don't do it. Nei porangi koutou. For us, John Heaney was the honga whakairo. As he got better and better, you know, the thing was to try and get further down the line. So by the time he got it sussed, he was your turn. Everyone in our whole block had their heads carved. It was like they stopped putting people in our wing because they knew they would carve their heads too. But we know we were willing to do anything to put the moko on. We didn't care. People hated it, you know, and we saw that hate from our own, from outsiders. And it's typical of people who fear things they don't understand.
Shock, disgust. It was like I was ostracized from a lot of my family. They didn't talk to me for years. I was interrogated a lot by a lot of people because of my fair skin, but yeah, I could explain why I did what I did.
Nā ko ngā tohu o rātou, ngā Rastafarians o Ruatoria, e tohu anō no tō rātou hapu. Me te mea nei ka o moe o tunu tātou, ko te reo o te moko, ka kite hoki te moko, he tohu tāna, he korero tāna, kia mohe ai koe, ko ai tēnei e tū atu nei.
You know, it was a bit much for even our own. Our old people didn't encourage us. No one did. So we went out on our own. That's when we made that step. We knew we couldn't go back.
We got a lot of flack from our own people about who the gives you the right to, you know, start doing that sort of stuff. That stuff should be left in the dark ages, you know.
E rā wā, ia mātou hāre kāna ki rungi etahi marae, kāre pēr, kāre anō te iwi kia rite ki te whakaārake I tēnei taonga o te moko.
Koera te mea katana ku tōku iwi taku matagau te rawa.
Many people 30, 40 years ago were really afraid of this reclamation, that we were delving into something that was best left in days of old. And it's a barrier again that's been motivated by our colonisation and by our Christianisation.
Ki taku mōhio, te nui ngā rātau e noho mātaku ana, kai hoki mai tētai āhua kino pē kia rātau o tētai hararane. Nā runga anō I ngā kōrero e mōhiotia nei e rātau.
They had an old enough memory. They weren't probably around when it was being done, but they knew people who had been around, and they held them in particular regard, and they knew that whole world had its own tikanga. We're talking about toto.
I tohe mai ngā iwi mō tēnei hokitanga mai o te moko ki Waenganui I a tātou. Engari ko ngā iwi e noho ana I roto I ngā taone nei, he mahi ohorere kia rātai, te kite tēnā tūmomo. Pēnei tunu ka kite huki rātai te tahi taniwha I runga I te tiriti.
Unlike up north, here in Ōtautahi, I never really saw moko anywhere. I did know it was a tradition here because they find all the chisels in the ground here. So I know that happened, but somewhere, you know, it's just gone off the radar.
I never saw tā moko until when I first saw Derek create a piece, and then I later on saw Ricky's legs.
Yeah, wearing puhoro was a different thing down here. We had the odd person walk into a pole.
Some of the older people had a bit of a hard time getting their head around it.
Yeah, I think my father was asked, who does he think your boy is wearing that sort of thing?
And it kind of epitomises this is what it's like, this is what we have to get through. You know, this is what we have to get through with our own people.
Ka ohorera tonu au I te mea, nui ake ngā kore whakae o te Māori ki ngā kore whakae, kore rata a te Pākehā.
One of the memories that sticks with me about the resurgence is a time when we moved on to do a moko kauai on a wahine in Waikanai Way.
Te tā I te kauai o taku hoa wahine umua. I te mea huri anō hoki ai anō tērā marae.
On the Aotea, there was a lot of arguing going on about whether the moko should happen.
So everything was rolling along, and then got to the second or third speaker, and the third speaker got up and said, okay, this isn't happening. We went, well, okay, what are we going to do now? I said, well, so we'll just sit it out.
As it got towards dark, we were kind of embraced on, said, you know, you got to come on now, you got to let them in, we'll carry this discussion on inside.
They went in and had a big dust up about it.
The hapu were like, moko's not going to happen in the wharenui. Blood's not being shed in here.
I said, well, actually, you might be surprised just how little blood actually you'll see.
Wera I tipu ai I roto I te ao Pākehā, me te whakaaro o tērā reanga, hei aha tō reo Māori, hei aha tō ao Māori me whai koe I te whakapono a te atua. I eke ki tērā wā I taua pōtuni rā, tētahi wero nui ki mua I tō rātou waruaru. I reira tētahi kāhui wāhine nā roto ana mai o te Atiawa. E tū māro ana, me tā rātou kōrero ki o rātou pakeke. Te hara tēnei taonga no te ao whakapuna engari nā o mātou tipuna.
And they were like, you can go next door to the kokiri. And the wahine were like, they were totally nup, that's not going to happen. They weren't going to back down. This went on till about midnight.
Until eventually, one of the kuia of that marae got up and laid it down.
And she picked up a mat and she rolled it out and she said, it's going to happen here. And yeah, we did the kauai there.
I think about the people who made it happen. I think about those kaumātua who had the courage to do something that most of our people had accepted had been lost to the past. For them, growing up how they grew up, to support something like that just took so much bravery, and I think about them.
The woman that led us was Leah Gerritsen Parata, and she knew how to handle the ones that didn't understand.
Koira pē tētahi wā tino nui ti matai te huri hare o ngā whakaaro huri noi te moti mo te taonga nei te mea. I pērā te tohi ki roto I ngā iwi, katoa te moti. E rā whakaaro. E ua ana mō mātou pakeke. E tipu ana I roto te ao te Pākehā.
And the response from non-Māori, and that's difficult to gauge because we actually didn't really care.
Good evening. By Pākehā standards, it's a forbidding face.
Do you wear the tattoo in order to threaten?
You get it right. It's not a tattoo, it's a moko.
Nā karere Pākehā, ahua he kuare. Ne, a tērā ka whakaisi e rātau, āno nei nā, kai roto ke nā hei whakateka mā rātau. Koe rei au te wāhi ka I whakahea au. I mahara au ki te āhua tano nā kai tuhi o nā kai ripuata. Nei a tamiti a te tanata tīwhana. Kare rātai te kōrero mūku ka tame o nai tūhoi.
It's not worn to intimidate the rest of us.
Well, the media team to make that as kind of focuses these people wearing tā moko. Moko is...
But that's not why you do it.
No.
You know, he could have gone at that reporter in a very negative way, confirmed the stereotype that arrogance breeds. And that's what makes him so brilliant, because he's able to cross bridges.
Yeah, I want to be very clear that the moko represent us who we are, and it's also going to be part of the future.
Nā e nei ki tako mōhio ko māmā tērā, ko māmā haere tērā momo āhua tana kiriweti ki te tīwhana, ki te tanu, te tanata maumoko. Ko te timanako tērā, kai te kite au I te whānui, te mahi o nā mahi, e mahi ana e te tira hau. O te tira e haere nā maini. Kai te kite akea, e tohu, maha rāta. Enari, ko te timanako ke pai o rātau nā nākau, o rātau nā wairui nei tērā tau.
The new wave of artists coming out, there are some good ones and there are some bad ones.
The challenges for the next generation of moko artists is many people are desiring to do moko.
He kino wetai. He kino wetai. Pena raia ko te reanga e kōrero nei tātai, taku reanga ko te reanga I whai wā ki ngā tohunga. Kia pono pa kōrero, ka rea nau ko ki te I te tai, ko kore take ana wana mahi.
If you have not got a solid base, then all you are is a Māori artist, and you're misappropriating those traditional designs.
Ko te tohu tō roto, whaia I ngā mea tau ki te mahi.
If you're Māori and you're thinking about becoming a tā moko artist, you must align yourself with the wānanga. I know that most of the first wave of kaitā have all taught, numerous peoples over the years.
We respect the generation before us in terms of the mahi, because I think without them, there wouldn't be us.
I ngāwari rātau kia mātau, ana I tuku kōrero kia mātau, boku mahi moko, ana, poi maria katoa nā I tērā.
We walk the path of moko much easier than they would have had to. And it's because of what they've been through that we're able to do that.
Ko rātau tērā I whawhai, I whawhai hoki I aua wātonu, a kia ora kia I te reo.
Started to get, in some cases, 4th or 5th generation moko artists.
Yeah, you got some young fellas who are doing PhDs in moko now. And that to me is like, man, we're in a healthy place.
I tīmata pēr I tēnei, te hiko e hāre I tēnei ara, te ara moko, te wāi au e tamariki tonu ana. Nā Gordon I tino hauhau I tērā ahi roto I au. Nā nau I mea he take wāhau roto I tēnei, te ao moko nina. Ana ka haramai wētai, ka koro I ngā koro, ka tuhi au a kupikitia, he mea ahua whakairo ake nei te ahua, engari ka tuhi ake au. Ana ka harea ke rātau ki ngā tangata tattoo Pākehā nei, mā rātau e wero I te kiri ki te rahu, ana ka hua ake ko ngā pikitia rara, ana ku I tuhi. Taua wātonu I rongo a Gordon I te pērā au. Ka tere mai ki taku kāinga, I taku whānau, I ka mea kia au. Rāua teiko taku nēni noho ki te wānanga. Nānau I poi. Ana, poi maria katoa au, I te mei nāne, ana koina te katoa taku au ko te ao moko. tahi au ka tūtaki ki tēnei taniwha, e tino tangata, a Uncle Mark.
Ko oko mātauranga Māori i tīkina mai i te maha o ngā tāngata. Me kore, e rā o ngā kōrero e noho i te kotahi tangata. I te kia pēra, ka mate, ka moe.
He's such a knowledgeable man and he's such a humble man. Chief Jedi sort of a guy. Oh, but he can, he can fire up if he needs to as well. If he needs to tell you off, he'll tell you off, no sweat. Rightfully so. Yeah. In the 90s, there was a lot of backyard tattoos, as we come to know them now. But then you had these high-profile Māori artists who were making the shift from the art form over to Moko. People like Derek Ladeli and Rangi Kapa and Moko. I'd, just been doing my own kind of research and digging around what I could find. And Mark Korpua, he come across my website and made contact and just told me, hey, bro, awesome that you're getting involved in the mahi of Tāmoko. But just want you to know that some of this kōrero on here is a bit misleading. Just be aware of what you're posting up there. So I was like really blessed in that sense and really privileged that he was like, just come over here, boy, and I'll show you, what I know.
Nā reira, ka whakaro tuna kei au, he maha ngā kōrero kei au, he maha ngā pukenga kei au, me toha, me tuku atu ki te toko maha o ngā tangata. Ko tō whāinga, ko tō mātou whāinga, kia ora.
I tīmata taku hiko e Moko i toi haukura, i raro i ngā pariraua Derek Ladeli o rongo whakata. Tai atu au ki reira me taku kōrero mōhio ko ai a Derek, no reira taku tino ihu hupe i reira. I noho tata ki tōna taha, i wānanga tata ki tōna taha, kia kite, kia ako, me pēhea te pēnei, me pēnei. Kau ke mo te Moko noiho, mo te taha manaki, mo te taha tikanga, mo te taha reo, kei reira au, kei reira taku manoa katoa i roto i tēnei ao Moko. Ko tā Derek me noho pū ki tō mana ahu ake, anei ngā rārangi kōrero, anei ngā ture. Engari, me noho pū koe ki ngā ture, me hanga i tō āwano, me hanga i tō momo Moko anō. He taui rāna Derek, engari, e tīmata anau i tōku ake ao, i tōku ake momo Moko, mōku ake uru.
If you really want to get into Moko, then you got to dig a lot deeper than the skin. You got to talk to some people, you got to talk to your own people, you got to examine those carvings and just research, do your homework. Look for the small things, the hidden things.
Wāhaere au ki te kuro hato tipene, kei roto i nā dorms, te nuinga o nā mahi haututu o nā tama i reira. Tā Moko hea, nā ringa, nā waiwai o nā tama TIP, ne? Kei reira, me ki tuku mai te hiahia ki roto i au. Tīmata mātou me ki te haere ki nā whare wānanga whai tohu, tō mātou waimari e tūtuki mātou ki nā mātanga, ki nā tōhunga, pērā ki te whare huia, pērā ki Hireni, Melbourne, and then pātai mai ki au. Hea tō hiahia, hea te take ka hara mai ki te whare wānanga, and taku te kuare o te rā, te taiohi, ona bia tōhunga. Puku kata a Hireni. Te arataki i ahau, te tohu i ahau. Korea tāna hoki atu ki te kāinga, ki tō ahika. Kei reira ki te mātauranga mō nā tōhunga. Me nā ka hia te tai atu ki taua taumata. E te rāpe me hoki atu ki nā marae, me ngā wāhi tapu o aua marae, ki te whakarongo, ki te whenua, ki te moana, mō ngā kōrero mo te Moko. Pea kua kimi, kua haere, and kua ngaru. Nā kōrero, no reira me whakaro mātou, o me kimi ngā kōrero, me rangahau i ngā kōrero. Between me and Ra, we sort of couldn't keep up. And me and the bro realised we couldn't do it on our own, and so we needed to train some people. So I've always known Q in his whānau. He was one of the sort of the first ones, like after Ra and I had probably been tattooing, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years sort of thing. But we were all pretty young, all in our 20s, yeah.
Ai he whanaunga mātou. So ko Ahau, ko Karam Hood, ko Rikirau Luttenberger, ko Pohi Luttenberger tana tuakana.
We were just cousins, just looking out for each other, and you can draw so you can, come and get involved, and then get our nans and our kuros around us to show that, we were being mandated. Yeah, and I suppose that's all I really ever wanted to, was to know that our whānau like that would support us, just because we were all so young.
So ki te haere mātou ki ngā marae katoa o tauranga moana ki te rapuhia ngā mātauranga, ki te rangahau ngā kōrero o ngā mātua tūpuna. Ko te take e mahi a te mahi, mō mātou ki te whakahokia, te mea moko ki a rātou mātauranga moana.
It's such a powerful taonga moko, and especially in a time where people are looking for, affirming their identity, reconnecting, honouring loved ones, and so I wanted our people to be able to do it in our way, which is like, moana-centric.
I have very high expectations in terms of what I expect out of my students, because they don't only represent me, but they also represent my teachers, so they need to be as best as they can possibly be before they leave the nest. I do have a lot of requests for apprenticeships, but I'm very picky as to who I choose. I don't just choose anybody just for the mere fact that they're good artists. They need to have other things as well. They've got to fit in, because I literally whāngai these fellas, A
lot of people that do moko, I don't even think they realise who were the first key characters to bring that out. The pedigree that they have is an amazing lineage, so I get to be a part of that. And you have to uphold that and respect that, otherwise the process will just spit you out as fast as you came in.
Anything great in this world, it will come at great sacrifice, and time is your greatest teacher.
Wai mari au I te mā ai, he tangata māro, engari he tangata I ngā wari mai ki ai. Tana ngā wari nei, he wā tōna I kohete hia, engari he kohete pai. He ako nui kai roto I te kohete.
With Gordon, every day was a learning day, whether you got a growling, there's obviously a reason why you got a growling, and you learn from it. So then you knew not to do it again.
Working with Gordon and being raised by strong women, strong female influences, was quite challenging, because I'd never had a male tell me what to do before. So I was kind of like, get you, I always had 21 questions, and I think the way that they learned was to not ask questions, just watch.
I mea ngia rātau, o te āhuatanga o te taura, me noho me whakarongo. Me noho me whakarongo, me noho me whakarongo, me mātaki, me mātai. I wā rātau e mahina, mutu kaua nā ngā mahi, ko noho koe ana ma te mātaki.
When those men growl, they growl hard. But I knew that it was going to benefit me, in the long run, so I had to just get over myself pretty much. But so much good came out of it, obviously. I wouldn't be here today without that experience.
It's probably quite tough to be an apprentice of mine. You either do to the best of your ability or just go and do something else. That's where it's at. And, take care of your I need you to come as fully formed as what you can be to jump on my wagon because my wagon's not slowing down.
It was an amazing experience with him. It was hard. There were a few times where I got brought to tears, but it was necessary because there was a lot of things that were normal to me, but in his eyes, it just needed to change. And sometimes the best way to change bad habits is to break them.
O te awe noho nei tātou inane, e kite ana au e āhua rite hārera te moko. Ka kite wetahi tauira, pōreka, ana nāwai, e toru e whā, e rima e ono ona ngā tangata, e mahi ana i ue rā tauira. Ko ea te wā, ko whawhainga ngā whawhai me tahuri tātou ki te whakarauora i ngā āhuatanga, i ahureia i te tehi moko ki te tehi.
I would like for my moko to reflect where I come from. I might have a foundation that came from the House of Natives, but have the signatures from Rereahu in my mahi.
I think one of the good things I learned from rangi was definitely to go home and to capture and study all the tohu and the style from where you come from.
He māmā no tēnā nāwatu ki ngā puhoro, māmā no te hoko rahu. Ko taku hihia mo te awe haere ake nei. E hia nau kia hoki atu rātau ki o rātau marae. Ki reira na nāwake ai wetahi āhuatanga, wetahi tauira rereke e rereke ai te moko o Apōpō.
I was nervous for Hirone getting his mataora done because of the negativity. I think it's just because I care about him. I really care about his feelings and I didn't want anybody to judge him. But at the same time, I knew he needed to get it done.
It's always been in thought. It'll be more appropriate for myself to wear mataora before I actually continue to practice it on other people.
Moko artists, especially, we need to be walking the talk, not just talking it. And I was really proud of him when he got that done. That's how serious he takes his mahi.
He Māori ahau, like, I am Māori, and, it's our birthright. It's our right to get it done. So there's no need to be afraid.
When you dedicate yourself to something, there shouldn't be any issue of, something as small as wearing it. If I'm doing moko and I'm not walking the talk, am I out here just doing pretty stuff?
Gordon was like, "Are we doing it?" And I just said, "Yep." Okay then, in an hour, get ready.
It's a beautiful experience. Like, yes, it does hurt. Yes, it does take a long time, but it's worth it. It's a brotherhood that you are a part of, and you feel like you're involved in something bigger than just yourself. I just want to put it out there, our sisters have been holding this kaupapa for a long time, and we need to see some more male out there getting moko and being positive and showing that it is a positive lifestyle, because there's been a flip on it for a long time that it's only been related to negative and bad things. I'd love to see an All Black out there that's got a moko mataora. The impact that you would have on all the rest of the rangatahi would be incredible. So, all you Māori All Blacks out there, or that are about to be All Blacks and that are Māori, I got you.
Wherever I went around the world wanting to learn about Māori and Polynesian tattooing and the traditional hand tools and what was happening, everybody would always turn around and point to me and say, "Hey, look, there's this guy in South Auckland you should be seeing." Even when I was up in Tahiti, they said, "There's a guy in South Auckland you should be seeing." Eventually, I managed to find someone who knew him, who could introduce me to him. And so I went and met Polo Siruape. When I met him, he offered to teach me, and that was just incredible. And also, he was an incredibly open person. He was willing to help anyone. And he said, "You have to stand up and be part of your community. You have to prove to people that this is a worthy art form, and be part of the conversation that is happening around your people and your culture right now."
I was not an aspiring tattoo artist at all. That wasn't something that I wanted to be. I just knew that I wanted to learn about my culture. That kind of led me to meet my mentor, Te Kura Te Wanako Tūroa. So it turned out that he was also Tū Wharetoa. And through him, I started learning a lot about my whakapapa. He'd been tattooing for years. He was also a carver and had been doing moko for a while. I needed to study some more. I needed to do more wānanga on moko and stuff. So I reached out to India and he basically took me under his wing for a while.
No, I didn't see a problem at all with women doing tā moko. It was really hard for women to break into tā moko or tattoo.
So I was often banished to the dungeon to make needles and choke on flux. So I'm actually grateful that I got that experience because there's not a lot of mokoaras these days that got to experience that or probably wouldn't even know how to make their own needles.
Originally, we had to make all our own gear. We've got some of the old machines here that were being used when we first started out. Hang on, let's just see if this is going to work. This one here, this is what they used to use for tattooing eyelids and faces and stuff in Tahiti. And it's an electric razor that's been converted into a tattoo machine and you put the needles on the end of here. Polo was the one that introduced me to the uhi, and he really wanted to see us carrying our own tools with mana. He had a dream that we'd all be doing our moko by hand. And Moko Kunuiarangi is the first one that's actually come and said, show me the hand tools. And prior to that, I've taught croc. It's been through him that Moko has come to us as well. So it's gone full cycle. If there was ever such a case of a Pākehā Māori, I'd say it'd be him. And he's got his whole heart and soul in it. He's so whakaiti and haumāori about what he does, and that's a real big part. And that was actually the main thing I learned from Polo, the disposition of a moko artist. A lot of people think it's all about prancing around like a pukeko, you know? I mean, you need a certain amount of ego to actually even put yourself in that situation. But as far as gifting something to someone, if you don't want them to feel like a lamppost that's just been pissed on, then you have to give it to them in a way where they can accept it and for them to wear it, and you have to give it with some humility.
By learning the tools and using them, people get confused that I'd claimed ownership to that. That was never how I was taught. I was always taught it's like being a caretaker and helping it along and passing it on. And that's where moko came in.
Mā haraharau pia mō tēnei Pākehā e kawe ana i ngā tāua ngā tūpuna, ngā uhi nei, i te whakaaro, hei, heka, koe tēnei tangata, me tirohia. Me te tūtakitanga ki te tanga i ana mahi, ka waiwai. Kamo, ka tino rongo i te mana, i te Māori o ngā mahira, me te tino tiaki o croc i ngā tāu. Ka mōhio anei tētahi ara mōku, anei tētahi tino kaioko mōku.
It's by no means something of mine, but I do enjoy being a part of it. It's an honour, but it doesn't belong to me.
You know, Pākehā came here and the art form disappeared because of it. And here's an Englishman who's helping bring it back. You know, and it kind of comes full circle. And sometimes these things happen like that, you know?
Moko showed me he'd constructed some tattooing implements. I could see he had ability there. And that, to me, you know, showed that he was really interested. It wasn't just a talk-up.
Croc laid down the challenge. He said, if you want to learn to make those tools properly, come and live with me. I unenrolled from Auckland University and packed my bags and flew back the next week.
Kua whātau au inaine e mahi moko ana. E hara te mihini I tōku aronga me ki. Ka waihoa ki tērā taonga ki ngā tino ringarehe o tauāhuatanga. Tika ana kia tino aro tētahi o ētahi ki tēnei taonga. Hei hātu te raweke mo te wāpoto, te hoki ki te mihini, te hoki ki mahi ke. Engari kia tino pono nei te tangata ki tēnei mahi. You know, koina te hiahia. Kia tohu ngai, kia kaua e tutuno.
I probably wouldn't have done my puhoro with a gun at all. Wouldn't ever have gone there. Forgetting the puhoro is to feel a connection to our tipuna. I'm the first person to take up the uhi tāmoko since my great-great-great-grandmother Te Wārama, and that's quite big for me and for my whānau.
E tino taonga tēnei te kitea I tēnei whenua. Ka kore e tino kitea. Ia te tūmanako ka putaputa mai ngā kai tā o tēnei momo tāmoko.
E timata ai I te uhi katoa kapai. Kua nau te rongo I tēnā, ko tāna kai ko te uhi. Kua ngā kai hoki nōku te mohia, kei te kawea. Ko te wahanga ki te uhi matarau, kia hau nei, me noho motuhake ki roto I tō tātou iwi ake. Me wānanga te iwi Māori ake mo tēnei whare. Ko te pū, māma noio, I te mea ara noku tēnā. Nō rātau tērā, e roi ana mo te uhi. Me kimi wāhi motuhake e ora I tēnei taonga. Me noho motuhake I tō tātou eo. Koe anō mo te oranga o te moko, e ora pai ana.
Kapa haka has played a big role in the resurgence of Moko. It was one of those things that really provided a platform.
Expressing yourself externally as Māori. That's who we are. And matatini, that's the premiere, to see what's going to come out.
I remember the matatini where Piri got up and he was fully tarred up. And it was just like, wow, what good.
It was amazing to see a tangata puhoro on stage, a real one, not just drawn on. You know, seeing someone up there that has a puhoro, it opened up an opportunity. It's like, I want that too.
Ko timatara. Ko au te me tuatahi, ko au anake. Ko te whakāturanga nui, ko te whārangi o te pukapuka e mohe nei, ko mana. I puta taua kōrero ki au. Hātau e whakaro nei, kia pērangi a tōkiri. I ngā kupu a te karaipirire. Whakaro nei a, au kia ora. Taku hia, kia piri au ki oku tipuna, au ko tōku ngā kaukiko.
For Piri Searseer, that journey was a spiritual one, a journey that took him back to the land.
Kāru hoki au I whakae ake mō taku whakaahua ki roge o te mana nei mō piri, mō te kaupapa o te moko.
That was hugely significant when he came out in the first Mana magazine.
It was mind-blowing at that time for us because moko wasn't prevalent.
It just looked amazing. It was definitely a beautiful moment, I think, for moko and inspiration.
I remember carrying that Mana magazine around for years and years. It was my pride and joy.
What I remember about it actually was the quality of the design. What it did was, in my mind as a practitioner, set the standard.
Kia nei a Derek he tangata mahi toi, he koi ra wātu aia. Mena he tangata ke tērā pe ko kore au whakai.
You could see that it was impeccably planned out, really well executed, and it set the standard for moko.
Like the scale that it was on, you know, was 3/4 of the body. It's a sight to behold as a youngster.
He me hō, ra wātu hi awa wara. Engari, ko pake ke au, ko kroua, ko kaumātua, ka tukuna, he tama, haere koe ki tawera. Whai tērā.
E whitu noi ho taku pakeke. Mau mahara wahau, ko taku kuia I te taha o te atamira. Ka karanga mai ki awa, moko hara mai. Ka tikina atu ai e tana pene, ka tīmata ia te tuhi I te moko ki taku konohi. Mutu tōtana tuhi mai ki runga I awa, ka mea mai ki awa ki kaha e taku moko puna. Ana, ka haere au I runga I te atamira, ka haka. Mōheo wahau I roto I awa, koina te wā I tō whakatō mai te kākano ki roto I awa, mā te mau moko, ka whakakite atu koe I tō tino ngākau Māori.
I was drawing on moko for like 10 years, you know, just with Sharpies.
There are some really great things that are happening in the Kapa these days. I can remember back in the early days, the Māori performing arts, you know, it was just scribbles and stuff.
Ko tētahi tau, te tautuarua pēr, te tūnga o te mātāra e ahua rite ke, o mātau puhoro ki te ko tingo o te rēpata.
We used to laugh about some of the facial moko we used to see in the early kapaka days. You know, being the artist, having to draw it, and always went on stage at that time with the ugliest moko because it was rushed. And so as artists, we just wanted to uplift the integrity again and the skill. The latex stencils that are out now, those speed up the process and actually look realistic. And then you have the groups that are tūturu and they actually go and get their face done. When I see a performer, kai haka, walk on stage and it's a real moko, that's like what Piri Shasha done back in Ngāre o Wāhia. It's taking it to another level.
Kāre kore ko au, te tangata tuatahi, me tia nei, ki tēnei taonga, ki runga I te atamere. Engari, kāri roa mai, e tangata no, ka putupara, e ko ora katoa mai rā.
Each matatini, more and more of the performers are wearing moko, from the ankles to the head.
Hoi no, tērā ia te tau patu, me moko tūturu, me moko ātuhi nei.
When you're dressing kids up for the day of their performance on the atamira, they are so happy and excited to actually be able to wear kauai or a mata ora or have any little pieces of moko on their body, because it's like the day they get to like dress up and perform and be proud of who they are as Māori children. But the cultural festival in Otautahi didn't want the schools, the kids, to be wearing moko on their faces while they were performing. Like, it seemed like you were really ripping them off.
Drawing on the moko, I know amongst some of the Tūhoi people that's, they're like, hey, man, if you're gonna do it, do it. To some extent, I definitely agree with that. And, you know, part of our drive is, in the moko world has to be to normalise it again.
Kia hau o te kapa haka, kaua e tuhi mai. Ona o tātou e tū I roto I nā kapa kako o te motu. Ena tīpanahia. Ka kore wahotia.
We had a karaua a rangi wewehi, koro Sam Hahunga, and his belief was you put this moko on, you draw it on, and then you go and wash it off. So you're washing your mana away that you've worn on stage. Ka le taku I witanu a rangi wewehi I mau moko I rungi te atamira. O ka re hā kia au.
Kia awa nei, ka reo aku ngā kau whakatāwai I ngā mea ka tuhi noiho. Mō ngā mea kei te tuhi noiho, a tōna wā.
Kia nei koe nei te pai o te tuhi, mō te tamaiti. Mene tamaiti rawa, tuhia.
Kia nei, tautoko ana I ngā taha erua. Pai ake te tā moko. Engari anō tēnei mea te tā pikitia, tautoko tōna ahau I tērā. Koe tahi te tāia e rātau.
At the beginning, I don't know how many bloody armbands I did. You know, I don't know where the bloody things came from, but armbands were the things at the beginning.
So that was the first part of revival. I'll just get a band because that's safe. Then the art form flourished to exploring what our people were wearing everywhere, not just cautiously putting a band on because we didn't want to go for the face.
In the end, we just like offered other alternatives that actually came from our kete. But, you know, for the most dedicated, it was the puhoro peha.
Yeah, it's kind of another one of those taonga that is a big deal for us as Māori. You have to have a real good reason, for me, to want to take it up. A real good kōrero behind why you want to wear it, what it's there for you.
Te kupu e mau nei au ko te moko whakaru. Tōku iwi o loto au o whanganui. Ko te moko whakaru e hāngai puana ki ngā ōritetanga a te tāne e noho taura tāna I roto I ai anō. Ko eke ki tētahi momo wero I roto I ai anō te kau e tika I e rātohu o te moko whakaru. Ko te puhoro e hangai puana ki te tere o te wāwai, te piu o te wāwai, te mohotunu ki te ngāoko, te tere o te whakaola I a koe, kia ki te mai te rangi whai muri iho. Ana ko te puhoro hoki hangai puana ki tētahi wahanga o te kotahitanga o tana iwi.
There are no puhoro that are the same. The meaning behind them is completely different from one individual to the next.
There's so many different ways of doing them, and I like to do mine in a particular way. Turu does his own. Yeah, everyone has their own little kind of ways in which they do it. But then I started to realise, oh man, I'm actually from a stylistic point of view, I'm trapped. You know, I found this thing that works for me, and now I'm just following these design principles. And now I'm kind of stuck. You know, I'd become sick of my own style.
Yeah, I think the first time I really sat down with Rangi was at Te Papa when we had the puhoro wānanga at Te Papa.
We all met up at Te Papa and we all demonstrated our work and exhibited our work.
The concentration was on puhoro. The visitation was off the chart, you know, and all the Māori faces and, you know, queer, tamariki. Yeah, I think it did a lot.
Rangi Kapa was working on one of his clients, and what struck me about this puhoro was that he was putting lightning bolts into this puhoro pattern.
So most of my stuff is curvilinear and it's uniform. From a design perspective, what's the opposite of that? Linear or more angular. So I thought, well, what's the opposite of uniform? Oh, erratic. And so what's erratic in our world? Oh, lightning bolts. You know, they come down, they do their own thing.
Tau i arangi e mai ana. Ka titiro I hai, ka whakarangi hai. Tom. Hea wera, he uira kai te tārai ki te waiwai o te tangata ni. Nā tira tau ki arangi, o pēnei taku ringaringa ki ai, yes. Au e, tūrama. A ki tau ko taku whanaunga no te awa. Nā kakatau, te kite atu I ngā uira e mahi ana I rungi ana wāwai. E hanga I pū ana ki tērā wāhanga tana whakapa a kata katoa. Kia ora.
Yeah, so seeing Rangi, putting these lightning bolts into this traditional looking puhoro really made me understand what Mark was trying to say in terms of push the envelope, start coming up with new patterns that are appropriate to the kōrero that people want to wear on their skin. So that really struck me about Rangi's work. And we sat down and had a kōrero with him about the lightning bolts, had a good laugh about it.
Actually, if I had my way, I'd like to do far more radical things like doing, bright pink paisley puhoro.
Ko te painga ia pēo tērā wā, I reira hoki ki tau I taku tuahine Julia Mahian, I tētahi wahine. He tuatahitanga tērā Mark ki te I tērā. Ki tau tērā whakaro, ka paike.
I felt like it was an environment that was safe for me to do that. And at that time, actually, the men were pushing me. They weren't saying wahine did not do moko. I vividly remember Gordon Toy saying to me, hey, sis, when are you going to start doing moko? I think the greatest misconceptions are that wahine didn't practice, that wahine didn't wear moko puhoro.
It was just a beautiful thing to see a woman standing there with this full puhoro on, it was awesome.
In the Māori world, it's not just the guys that do the chisel work, And I think the Christian influence buggered it up and the introduction of that kind of patriarchal control.
I was taught that Mark was set aside for warriors of rank. The tohua tū, those who are ranked up in the whare tū taua. I'm pretty sure a lot of those were women, especially up in Tūhoi, a lot of them were women.
The thing is, most of the ethnologists were Pākehā men observing the practices of men, and there is, records of our kuia wearing puhoro, but you wouldn't get to see it until they had to hiki their panikotis and cross the streams.
I remember reading something about when the early Europeans came to up in Taitokoro, that the woman and men both had puhoro. So it was recorded in the ship's logs,
Puhoro on wahine is definitely rare. The work that I had been given from Broke, I would have been probably one of few, maybe the only woman with an ape back then, I'm not actually sure. But now I think many women wear puhoro for many different reasons.
The puhoro, that's a process that takes days. And the person that you're tattooing is taken to places where they don't want to be. And you literally sort of peel back the layers.
So there's a definite healing paradigm that comes with the art form, and one that I reckon is sorely needed amongst our people as well.
Mo waitai, he momorongo a tēnei. And sometimes when people are going through things, they use moko as an outlet, as an expression of those types of pain. And that's where moko is something that comes in as a good rongoa. We have a kōrero down home. I roto I te wā o te he, ka puta he tika.
Taking yourself to that dark place, I toko ake te moko I te pō. When you're on the table for 6-7 hours, are you able to stay in that dark place, understanding the whakapapa of moko?
It's somewhere where your mind can go to when you're receiving mokos, is going to that place of I tokona ke tō moko i te pō uriuri, te pō tangotango, no raro rawara, no raro henga. You have to take your mind to that place and think about why you're getting it. The spiritual side of moko and karakia. Those are all rongoa too. Because one of the big components in moko is te taha wairua.
I think almost every day I get clients coming in here with their own stories and their own traumas, and we share experiences and we share what we've learned and what we've overcome in our lives. Some of the stories are really heavy, but I've learned to stay neutral and not hold those things in because it can affect you. Yeah. We almost become counsellors when we're doing moko, but I like that. I don't mind.
Being able to place a tohu on these people in terms of, you know, where they come from and what makes them strong and their identity and all of this stuff, that really helps people. The deeper aspects of this taonga is, man, it can be life-changing for people, really life-changing.
I grew up not really knowing my whakapapa, and because I was away from my marae, my cousins, my aunties, kaumātua, and because my dad was going through what he was going through in the 60s and 70s, the knowledge wasn't passed down towards me. And so I had this real hunger and this real thirst to learn. I had to go to the Christchurch Library in the Māori section, and I'd look up books about Ngāti Manipoto, and I'd look up Rewi Manipoto and Tainui Waka, and I'd look at all of these amazing books, and I'd see all these beautiful symbols and carvings, and I'd draw all this stuff down with the envision of getting that tattooed on me at some point. I'd have to go to a Pākehā tattooist with my little drawings and my sketches and go, this is what I want, this is what it means, I want to hear. It took me many years before I actually found Ricky Manuel and another Māori tattooist, Chaz from Tāwāhi, that I really connected with, and then also Inia Taylor. Inia came in at a point in my life. He was one of the brothers that saved me, you know. He really, you know, he was there. He was like, he could see what was going on.
Tiki came in my shop one day and he was sitting there and he looked really troubled. I didn't quite recognise him. So I said, what are you doing? Where are you staying? He didn't have anywhere in particular. I said, well, come back to my place. When he told me what the music industry was doing to him, I realised that eventually that he had to leave that band. And that was going to mean that he left his income, that he left all what he'd built up and what he'd known, and he had to start afresh. We just hid him away from the world. He started wearing gumboots, bush shirts, and grew a beard, and he didn't leave for 10 years. We really helped each other.
Touring around the planet for so long and been doing this, my life was so extreme. But I couldn't do it without drugs and alcohol. And so I was, you know, I was on a roller coaster, and I was just a ball of just
And he had to be the man at 2 in the morning, every morning. And you can't do that on orange juice. It's not possible, because no one else is on orange juice either.
I needed something or somebody to help me out, and Inia was that person. And so by me finding him, and through us going through that journey of tā moko, was a really healing process, and it really gave me sort of like a strength to be able to really look at my and kind of go, I've kind of lost my way a bit here, and I don't know if I have the shoulders to be able to carry the stuff that I'm putting on my body.
I was really into the healing nature of moko. For Tiki, he needed to find himself, he needed to be strong, he needed to get over a whole lot of addictions. There's no way on earth he could have carried on that lifestyle.
Through moko and stripping it right down to the rawest of me, I managed to rebuild myself and heal myself to where I am today.
I mean, moko's got an amazing healing ability. I actually know nothing else. For Tiki, that's all we had, you know? I mean, those are the tools we had.
That healing process of wanting to be hurt, this hurt me, this feeling that pain, it was really intense. It was really intense, and it just helped me shed that, whatever I was carrying around, and all the raruraru, and all this stuff, this energy that I collected from around the planet from just years of abuse. It helped me just shed that and purge me of that and start again, yeah.
Me ona kaupapa. Iwe nei rā, here reke ngā kaupapa o tēnā. E whiwhi ana I te moko. I kite au I tētahi kōrero. He mea ana, it's the most emasculating experience. Tēnei mea te whiwhi te puhoro, nā te mea ka kitea te iho o te tangata. Ka kitea tō maia, tō pakari. If you're only after aesthetics, you're soon going to get found out.
Moko, for our people, was a way of saying, I'm here, and I'm beautiful. And that underlying sensibility has never, ever gone away. And I believe that's what keeps us going.
Moko's become one of the defining characteristics about how the nation sees itself and how it projects itself outwards. It also challenges Pākehā people to be more honest about who they are and where they are. And that's the way it should be.
Nowadays, it's just so accepted and it's just celebrated, and you see it everywhere now.
What we need to do is make it relevant, and we need to make our younger generation know it's not about collecting, it's about the mōhiotangan.
We can argue the point about trendy and tikanga and all that sort of stuff, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't say that moko is in a safe zone yet. Let's just get it out there and we'll deal with the aftermath later on.
The ancient Māori of our tūpuna's world and time were an incredibly glamorous, fashion-conscious people with a strong sense of aesthetic.
I think it's always been historically fashionable, you know, because it looks beautiful. Whether it be our musicians, sports stars, advertising, TV, film, fashion, whatever. The famous people have made it trendy to want to have moko.
I guess my moko is a daily reminder of where I come from and who I come from. When I first got this, it was half good intentions to have my whānau on me, have my whakapapa there with me, but also a bit of a fashion statement. But now, it's all changed. It's not a fashion statement no more. This means everything to me.
It was probably around the late 90s. I really started to notice moko sort of pop up. Just kind of the shift started to happen. And then you start to see some stuff pop up in the All Blacks, you know?
It really got some traction once Warriors came out. Mainly it brought the subject up that it wasn't just a thing of the past, which is sad really, because, you know, does reality follow fiction or does the fiction follow reality? I got in a bit of trouble back in those days for romanticising the gangs, because we did our best to make sure that our people looked as tahua and as stunning as possible.
When I started to see non-Māori wear moko was probably around that whole Robbie Williams kind of thing, I guess.
You know, he was quite big in that period. Eh? Robbie Williams was, you know, going through that phase where he was in his prime, I guess. So it would have been one of those instances where it sparked the discussion about whether we should be giving it away to Tāwāhi or whether we should just be keeping it close to ourselves.
I remember at the time I wasn't too concerned by it. I was like, yeah, sweet, whatever, you know, whatever goes on there, no worries. But I remember thinking, wow, that was pretty extreme, because he was, you know, he's a big pop star and everyone knows him, and here he is wearing this moko. I'm just glad it was done by Te Rangitu, by a Māori.
My boss came up to me and said, oh, there's a famous English singer. He's interested in talking to you about getting a tattoo, a Māori tattoo. And I said, oh, you know, who's that? And he goes, oh, Robbie Williams. And I was like, who the hell's Robbie Williams, kind of thing. And I didn't know who he was.
It went kind of worldwide in the newspapers, and without realising, I guess I posed a question to my people. Is it all right for Pākehā to wear moko?
Is it okay that I've got Maori tattoos? I never kind of know.
You know, high-profile singer that doesn't really have, I suppose, much to do with our world. So, you know, inevitably there was a lot of discussion around how come he's got it, all that sort of stuff. You know, myself, I don't really care.
You know, this whole thing about, man, he shouldn't be wearing moko. He's not a Māori. I guess there was mixed reactions to it. Some were like, che, moko on the world stage.
You know, I received criticism about Robbie Williams. You know, it was tough. But I think there's nothing wrong with tattooing Europeans, as long as it's Māori doing it. I remember being at a party in Auckland City, I think. All the crew were in the kitchen talking as they do, and one guy goes, hey, yeah, how about that Chinese guy that tattooed Robbie Williams? And I was sitting there like this and listening to this conversation. I was like, yeah, man, how about that Chinese guy that... And he goes, yeah, man, who the hell does he think he is? I was like, yeah, man, who the hell does he think he is, bro? It's like, should we go burn his house down, bro? And they're like, yeah. And then my cousin goes, what are you talking about? Oh, that's the Chinese guy you're talking about there, and he's not even Chinese, Māori, and he's from up home. And they were like, oh. But it's funny because you got to laugh about it, right?
This attitude that is, oh, it's only for us. We shouldn't be doing that on Tāwāhi. There's a bit of that going around from what I remember. And then actually, you know, knowing Te Rangitu and talking about that whole thing, you get the rundown about how Robbie was quite a respectful man when it came to actually getting the work done. I mean, he had his manager running around and, you know, going like this, and we got to be over here and all this sort of stuff. And he was like, bro, just leave it over there. Let the man do his job, please. You know, as being respectful as.
We're gonna not always get it right, but we have to back our artists. We have to give them the space to be able to create instead of confining them into a box.
I come from tipuna that were Irish, that were full-faced. So we know of our tipuna that were Pākehā, that wore moko, and we're proud of them. Because of that, I have no qualms in tattooing Pākehā.
Traditionally, it happened, you know, the receiving of moko was done on non-Māori back in the day. It wasn't done because they had nothing to do that day. Ooh, let's tattoo Tom. No. There's a kaupapa behind it.
If you're willing to talk about Robbie Williams and not talk about all the other haka guys, why is that? So we need to look at our own, maybe reverse racism, that we have for these things.
When Robbie Williams and Ben Harper and all those guys were getting mokoed up, there was a bit of kōrero going around whether they should be wearing moko and this and that. But I really loved Ben Harper at the time, so I was just like, chill. So I thought it was pretty awesome that people were repping our culture, and I was kind of seeing it more as the more that it's seen and honoured and valued, the better.
It's not easily explained, but people treated Ben differently because he was Afro-American. And there's a common kind of connection with people of colour who have, you know, whose community and societies have experienced the same thing. I think we obviously have a common experience in many ways.
But you just can't wear it like a fool. You know what I mean? You can't. You got to wear it with pride and know if you fall, you're bringing people down. And when you rise, you're lifting people up.
Most of our people back home here know Ben, and he's a little bit like a cuzzy bro. And he is really like that in real life, which made it easier for me to want to sort of do something for him. So when I asked him whereabouts on the body he wanted to have tattooed, he said his back. And I said, well, how much of the back? He said the whole back. And I thought, yes, all right, sharpen the needles. And we got to it.
Moko has become a bit of a trend amongst the Hollywood set, but Harper insists he's no culture vulture.
I want to be super clear. I'm not trying to be indigenous to a place that I'm not.
I think it's an interesting notion that celebrities have made moko more acceptable for Māori. I would probably counter that and say I think Māori had already begun the reclamation, and Māori, in fact, made it more accessible for celebrities. In terms of gifting moko to Tāwāhi non-Māori, I think that there are ways to do that that are both honouring and respectful of our designs and of where they've come from.
You know, we need to be open to the fact that we do have something very special.
The world is really interested in it, whether we like it or not. You know, a lot of people around the world, the Brazilians, around Europe, all over the place, really fascinated by our culture.
There's thousands of images out there now of moko. You've got to be stupid to think that someone's not going to, be influenced or create some sort of derivative or come and get moko. It's the way a large part of our tattooing moko fraternity make their living, is by tattooing people.
When I started, it was tourist money and tourist skin that helped me upgrade, that helped me learn, that got me better very fast. So I'm very grateful for all the people that lay down in front of me.
Lots of people criticise what I've done overseas and tattooing all these non-Māori and things like that, but we are trying to develop as artists, as kaitā, and I don't care where that skin comes from. I really don't, because that's not what's important. It's the work that's important to me. It's the development of how we perceive what is moko, what is tattoo.
The only way to protect moko is really just to continue to do moko. Continue to ground our practice in our community. You know, they can't own the narrative. That's the thing. And that's the most important thing.
For us as practitioners, we're able to translate, you know, their story into a kind of a Māori, through a Māori paradigm, through a Māori perspective, into a design.
If you're not Māori, then you've got to be thinking about having a piece on your arm or your leg or your back, and not something that's going to be very traditional.
You know, your relationships and your allegiance to your community will mediate how and what you give out externally to those that aren't from your community.
Yes, at Te Puia we do moko a lot of tourists. A lot of them actually come to Aotearoa to seek a peace. All they know is that it's a tattoo. Let's be honest, that's all they think it is the tattoo. So they think they can walk into like any other tattoo parlour around the world, look in the book and select. But we sort of tell them, no, the process actually doesn't work like that. And we give them a rundown of the process. We basically sit down, have a kōrero with them, you know, talk to them about what the many things it could mean. They come up with their whakaaro, and then we translate that into the visual design. And, you know, that's a different process for people, especially non-Māori. They think it's a bit strange that you can't select your own design. But we sort of wind them back and tell them, no, this is how it is. If you want to walk on this path, this is how we're doing it, yeah.
Engari mo te ki atu, e moko tērā kaha. Tuko wai te iwi, nā rātou ngā tikanga mo tērā I hipoki I whakai atu. Karekau, nā reira he tuhi tērā. Nā reira ki te, ki mai te tai, hea te tikanga o te tuhi a Robbie Williams. Who cares? Batman. Engari, e kore au e ki atu, he moko. He tuhi ke.
Mo te hiahia te Pākehā ki o Tāwāhi ki he rā ngā tau, he kirituhi tērā. Te ahunga mai o te kirituhi, I ahu mai I te kōrero e pānei kia mataora rao ka niwareka. Me tuku tērā taonga te kirituhi maratau mo te tangata kare whai wāhi I roto I ngā whakapapa o te Māori. I roto I ngā whakapapa o tērā o ngā pūrākau mo mataora rao ka niwareka. E tai atu iwi kei a ratau o ratau ake kōrero. E whakai ana te nuinga mātou ki tērā, ki te kore koe whakai, kei te pai tērā, ki te whakai koe, pai no tērā. Engari, noko nā tērā tūmomotanga te kirituhi puta mai tēnei wā.
Everybody has their own sort of perspective on that. And that's going to vary from, you know, person to person. Moko artist to moko artist. And I think that's fine. I mean, that's just how our tūpuna rolled anyway. There were variations on tikanga because this is how we prefer to do it as opposed to this is how they preferred to do it.
I don't use that term because it doesn't matter who I'm working on, I'm putting the same amount of effort in. So even though that it's on a white person, that genealogy has just crossed the bridge. And the cycle of what that moko represents for that person has just begun. But whakapapa is whakapapa. If their children start inheriting those designs, then the Māori starts to begin.
You know, in our studio, we're not going to be doing moko kanohi on the tourist. That's a definite. But if I'm out doing my own business, you know, if the case is right for me, I'll do it. If it's not, definitely not, yeah.
It's a kaupapa that needs to be worked through because I wouldn't personally just go out of my way to tattoo a non-Māori on the face, on the chin, or the puhoro. There has to be a really good reason why I would do it.
I have to question some of the work I did do. There has been an instance where I've done facial moko on non-Māori. You know, and a lot of questions have been asked about that kaupapa.
I don't think the world saw it until I posted it on Facebook, you know, and then next minute the hammer comes raining down and now I've got to stand for what I did. And I will. I'll stand by that mahi. I believe that the person that I did it on actually walked a similar path to us. He also, worked hard to learn about moko. He studied with some of the older guys to learn about the mahi that we do. In terms of the way he directs himself with his mahi, I consider it worthy of, that application. If anything, it's opened up a conversation to be had.
I had one guy in LA wanted me to tattoo his face, $10,000. I said, you can stick your money up, I'm not interested in it. You take that money, you buy a ticket to New Zealand, you learn our reo, you learn our ways, and maybe at the end of all of that, come and see me.
It's pretty clear to me, you don't give non-Māori designs that are tribally specific. Definitely don't go there with moko kanohi. I think that's a really clear boundary for me. I know that others will disagree, but I think it's about our accountability to our tupuna, it's about our accountability to our whakapapa, and quite simply, it's not ours to share.
Was it wrong? Possibly, maybe, definitely. Would I do it again? I'm not sure because I'm learning more now. I'm listening to my peers. I'm listening to what they're saying and how they're feeling. So for me, it's like, yeah, I hear what you're all saying.
I te tematanga o tāku mahi, ko te nuina o te keri e takoto mai māku, he Pākehā. Nā te mea I te pito o te taone o Ōtautahi ahau, e mahi ana, e tino pepe hoki au ki tērā auhatanga, ana tino whakawhetai ana ki aua kiri katoa e whakapakari mai I tōku ringa. If my canvas isn't from Aotearoa, I really want to leave them with a great love and respect for Māori tikanga, toi Māori. Today, ka tūtaki au I te tehi tāne no Italy, ko Matio, I te rānei, ka mahi tahi Tāwāhi I tōna tā.
So I'm from Italy, a city called Bari. So growing up, I didn't know much about Moko. As soon as I came here, I applied myself to study a little further. I had already had a beautiful experience with my friends in Ruatoki, so Tāwāhi, iwi, and that was about Kapa haka, but my photography has seen me investigating Moko, Whakairo, Matariki, so pivotal concepts within the Māori culture. And as I was studying, I grew fond of the idea of getting myself one.
For people who are non-Māori to find me is quite difficult. And so if they do, then I know they've done some research and talked to people who are wearers of moko that I've probably made.
Chris was on my list of artists which really give mana to the artwork they do. So I was specifically blessed.
He's a photographer and he has a nākau nui for te ao Māori. He's been working with Rangi Matamua and e nākau nui anei ki I ana mahi. Whetū e rā momo āhuatanga o te kokorangi. With moko and Māori, it's always about whakapapa. Whereas when I have a non-Māori client, I need to draw on some elements that are familiar to me so that I can create a design that's suitable for them.
I love the way she kind of perceived my genuine interest and my emotion in doing what I do, the passion, which, fuels my work. So basically my partner, she's an architect and she loves drawing.
Yeah.
So she did a drawing onto a picture which I've taken, which is Te Waka o te rangi.
Well, how do you feel about that, putting your girlfriend's drawing into your work?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure she will.
You're going to have
she
to
drew
show
this
it to
one.
me. Oh, did she?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Well, after talking with you, I think that's really fitting.
I'm so blessed now to have this chance because I know that it's just not a mark on your skin. It's not something fashionable, but it actually carries a deep meaning, and that's what I wanted.
To me, that is definitely the difference between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation. To wear tā with pride and respect rather than taking it. I hope that anyone who finds me has a deep respect for our whakapapa, our whenua, e rā momo ahotanga Māori, katoa.
I don't belong to fashion, so for me it's the essence of the experience. Mine, what was going through my mind while I was getting my kiritui was a recollection of all the beautiful moments. I was traveling through the memories. I've got beautiful whānau here in Rotorua. There's people like in Ruatoki, in the Uruera. There's so many people I grew fond of and I have beautiful connection with.
I often don't work on many non-Māori clients at all, but I don't think I need to call moko kirituhi to justify working on non-Māori. You know, he tangata ke, tātou katoa, aha ko kōwai.
You know, I've traveled a lot and I had plenty of experiences, but this is the first one which leaves a literal mark on my skin. In this regard, this is more certainly one of the landmarks in my path, and it will always be. I will carry this piece with great pride.
I think overseas, I see a lot of non-Māori practitioners putting moko into their designs, but I don't know how or what the relevance is for them. And I think this is the danger for tā moko. Tattooists, especially overseas, see the beauty of our designs, pull out their phone, look at an image of someone's beautiful taonga and say, I can make this for you if you want it. I was horrified to hear that, to think that someone's beautiful tā design could be just replicated like that on the spot when it was uniquely designed for them, which is the beauty of tā, you know, we create unique for every individual.
The kaupapa of where we are now is Tāwāhi Māori. It really grew out of the need for an Indigenous-driven tattoo festival that looked at the whakapapa, not just of Polynesia, but also the whakapapa that precedes that.
You know, hara I te mea ko ngā Māori noiho I whiwhikau ai. Kei roto te iwi Inuit, Alaska, Greenland, Iceland, Mexico, there's heaps of places. So, pai te kite a rātou e whakahoki mai ana I taua momo ki roto I a rātou noki.
Coming here to reconnect with our whanaunga. And nā iwi take Indigenous people around the world that are part of the revival of moko.
Māori have strong ancestral links to Tahiti. Our ancestors travelled from different points of Tahiti to Aotearoa.
Pacific Polynesia, we're pretty much the same people. I mean, even the languages are just dialects of each other, you know. I consider myself a Polynesian, even though we're, you know, in Aotearoa. That was our, you know, last major stop on the migration, apart from Australia now. You know, our people are making a major migration over to Papakanui Hema, Australia.
Hako Māori mai, no te moana nui a kiwa tātou katoa, no tapu a te a tātou katoa, no rai a te a tātou katoa.
You know, these people, they remind me of people like us.
Kia o ki mara mai ki nā kōrero a kui mā a koro mā. E heki mai nei mātou mai tapu a te. Ke ki mai I nā waka, I nā mātua tīpuna, nā ko mātātua te tai, I rono a ki tāringa.
That's to connect the ancestor. Because the Māori, some Māori people come by a canoe from here to New Zealand, to Aotearoa. That's the connection, the navigation.
Un seul peuple, c'est le même. Même malgré des milliers de kilomètres, on a une même culture, quasiment.
Ah oui, cousin, cousine.
Ouais.
My understanding is that there are different migrational routes from our original homeland, passing through different passageways through the Pacific Islands.
I remember seeing the program where they traced the genetic ancestry to Taiwan, and when you see the Taiwanese people that live on that coast, you see that their reo, their performance is very much similar to Polynesia's.
I have heard that Maori people, they believe their ancestors originally migrated from Taiwan. And I think some of the motif could be connected in terms of the shapes of the designs, the zigzag shapes. That's the very generally shared motifs in the Pacific. It was banned by the colonial ruling back in 1940s. They thought our tattooing was uncivilized, and we lost the tattooing for approximately 6 decades. But for us, it's a mark of honor. It's a mark of glory. So that's why we want to find the glory back.
The beautiful thing about being here is the coming together of all the indigenous groups. We've got people from the Philippines, there's a group from Taiwan, Paulo Jr., Suluape, he's here with his crew. Obviously there's us, the Māori crew, Tahitians, there's a fella here from Rapa Nui, and there's also some Westerners, some European fellas here as well. Yeah.
So it's just awesome to have indigenous cultures weaving and blending and working side by side, you know, it's an awesome buzz.
It's really awesome.
Yeah.
It's a big thing about resurgence that's coming through from all of these iwi. And it's just great to see everyone on large scale, full traditional regalia.
When you come to these things, you surround yourself with people that are all like-minded. You see a lot of similarities with our designs, which is really cool. There's a time where Pacific Island work was struggling to be recognized. And then the New Zealand Māori helped a lot to push our work.
Like, people look to Aotearoa and the Māori. The haka, the visibility of that face makes us seem like we're really pushing it more. And so they rely on, I think, what they perceive as our warrior status to actually help them push their kaupapa.
I love Aotearoa because the culture is so strong and grounded over there.
Kia kite, I ngā tohunga o ngā iwi o motuhake e mahi ana I rātou mahi. Me pēhea tātou te iwi Māori e taia te ngana ki aua tūmomo āhuatanga, me pehea rātau e taia te ngana ki o mātou tu āhuatanga mo te moko te take. Kia noho pai, kia noho Māori tau, tōna Māori i tēnei ao, kiko i tēnei ao, huri.
It's so nice that everyone's like gathering together as one.
We could basically share cultures and be aware of theirs. They're aware of ours, and we're all related because we're part of the same ancestry and everything. Traditionally, Filipino mark their faces. We talk about, you know, poetry on skin. It's very beautiful. Like our culture never wrote, right? But we expressed it in a way in characters. It's like one little character speaks many paragraphs, right? Explains about the stars, explains about the waterfall, explains about the forest and how you should hunt, what you should respect and everything. So what we're trying to do is bring it back so the youth are aware of it. That'd be awesome for them to carry on when we're gone and stuff. So it's a repeat of the culture.
You know, tino pai te kite I te iwi Filipino, mi o rātou moko katoa, momo ki roto I a rātou noki, nā te mea tō rātou tohunga mana I mea mai e rua te kau, a tau ki muri, hore kautangata I mau moko pēnānana.
What I'm doing now is Mentawai style tattoo. New design using all original elements and then Mentawai tattooing technique. If you are traveling in Mentawai, you are able to see many elders who have still body outfits tattoo. There are still many.
Tattoo is a very beautiful part of history all around the world. And it's festivals like this that help to expose that to everyone and for everyone to know that there's a history of tattooing in their culture, whatever your culture is. My ancestors are Shirokawa Apache. They are from the southern part of New Mexico. I'm kind of in the process of doing my own research as well as gathering the proper tools to be able to revive traditional Apache tattoo. The method is actually cutting the skin with a quartz crystal that has been shaved into a blade and rubbing it with soot from a tree. But yes, I'm still researching. It's a process. It takes time.
You know, I didn't actually plan to have a moko kauae at this festival, but I did always think that I'd probably have my kauae in maybe a less conventional setting.
Man, what a beautiful place to have a kauae done, you know. And I imagine that it's going to be a beautiful day. It's going to be awesome.
At first, my daughter wasn't coming until 2 weeks ago. And I think for me, I wouldn't have done it if my daughter hadn't been here. I'm a bit emotional now. But I actually know that it's really important for my kids and for my iwi, because, you know, every time I sort of approach my aunties, I'm like, you know, when are you going to get the kauae? Because my perception is that I'd rather that they got it first, you know, but I've waited for that to happen. I've stopped myself because of the same misconceptions, actually, around how everything should be, whether you should have the reo, whether you should be on the marae, being the kaikaranga, you know, what is actual entitlement? And also because on my Pākehā side, there's not fair, but my mother is a Sikh, so that's difficult. That's really Chihoti from Tahiti, who's also a revivalist, that's saying to me, you need to do it, you know? You haven't waited for everyone to do it. If you'd waited, there'd be no moko revival. You need to do this. So the moko's the relief.
Tihei Māori ora. Te tuatahi me tika te tuku mihi atu ki tō tātou matu i te rangi i o matua te kore, me whai a riko. Me nā atua, me nā tūpuna, kua tae mai i te rā nei, kua tautoko i te kaupapa nei. Te mahi, te whiwhi moko o e nei wahine rua. Kia ora. So there's also another wahine that will be getting done. Anikaro is going to be doing a friend from Tūranga Waiwai.
Me taku tino mōhia, kua tino reri tēnei ta mahine. Mōku ake, kua reri aia i tōna rautau i mua.
I reira i whiriwhiri taku iwi, ko Anikaro hei ringa toi māku. O reira i whakapau ka hau ki te kohi pūtea mo tēnei o ngā haerenga, Moko.
O reira haere nā kua kāre tana whānau i konei, hakua kei waho atu mātou o Aotearoa ki Moorea. Hoki ana ki taua kōrero e ori te tonu ana te Māori o te whenua, o te tangata. O reira, hara i te mea e noho māwehe ana tātou i te kāinga kei te kāinga tātou. E waru tau ki muri i tūtaki au i atu, me taku tino hehea kia rite ki aia. Clean lines, tangata u ki te kaupapa, kauke, mo te tānoiho, he hongonutanga ki reira. I'm sitting with him. My dreams are finally coming true, And I'm glad that I noho māua I runga I te kaupapa kauai.
I've been watching Anikaro's work over the last couple of years, and her work is just immaculate. And her flow is really, really beautiful. The motiatia that was going on is really, really beautiful, and it just takes you back to an older time,
It's pretty hard to describe, actually. I felt really honoured, but the overwhelming feeling was kind of relief. Relief that I'd finally done it. All that sort of reason not to do it was all behind me.
In my experience, it has helped a lot of people to just gain some momentum and digging deeper into their roots and their reo, finding out who they are. And it's been an empowering step for a lot of people.
I feel changed. Engari, kare he kupu. Kare he kupu. Nōku te maringa nui, nōku te honore nui. Kua tāngia taku mata ki te moko. Ki te toa, te whakaatu, te whakahua I taku aroha. Ki tō tātou nei iwi, kua tai mai ki te tautoko I tēnei o ngā moko papa.
I was really focused on my kids, on the voices and the energy and the individual people there actually, what each and every one of them meant. So I knew who was singing and I knew that they were kind of heartfelt things, so that was really special. Yeah, I feel that it was particularly special because as wahine that do moko and a large number of them being there, we're always struggling with how to engage other wahine in uptaking the moko. So I'm hoping that I laid down the challenge to those wahine tā, because some of them are facing the same issues as I do, in terms of their blended upbringing and when's the right time and their sort of entitlement to it,
It was a great experience because it was so emotional. It grabbed me really by the heart. It was like with the music and all the people, it was feeling like not painful, actually. I think the situation was so emotional that there's no space for pain.
The good thing was non-Māori people, European people, got to see it done kind of in ceremony with taku chanting and mōteatea, wera ahua. And so you can't replicate that. Tāwāhi can steal our pattern, but they can't replicate that. You know, and it's good that they get to see that, so they know the difference between what's real and what's not.
The shared risks and challenges for us as tatau artists across Polynesia, obviously there's the cultural appropriation thing.
I think there's a real European sort of fetish for neo-tribalism.
Here's these people that may think that it looks neat or that they look like they're a warrior or tribals people. But for us, as Māori people, it's kind of hard to take.
We've even having instances here in Mōorea where there are some Western people, you know, tapping traditional patterns into whoever turns up on their mat, sort of a thing. And these, you know, sparking all this debate and kōrero amongst the practitioners here.
We were talking last night about the pōwhiri, and the haukainga kind of opened it up for everybody to speak. And we all knew that, so we all got in there and we whakawhanaungatanga, and we whiried our tupuna together, you know, and brought them back here. But then there was the other lot, they didn't actually understand that, so you kind of go, well, why are you here, kind of thing, you know?
We're having all these kōrero, all these debates about, you know, what can be done, should we be doing something, should we be saying something? That's going to vary from people group to people group around Polynesia.
As an artist, I have like seen a lot, like even they're not Filipinos, they're copying the thing. Sometimes it makes us proud and happy because they appreciate it. But when you ask them, like, do you know the meaning of it? You know? But they're not knowledgeable.
I can share, you know, because it's not mine. It's from our people. So if I share design, it's good for me. It's good for my people because now everybody know what is Polynesian design is.
It's better more people know about this with the clothes. If you close, when you die, this culture disappear, maybe, I don't know. If you open your mind, more people learn or see, it's better, but always, again, with respect.
I've seen a lot of the European reversioning of Pacific tattoos at a lot of these sorts of festivals. I find it quite offensive and quite arrogant that they're placing that kind of work front and centre in amongst all the Pacific artists because it's such a blatant reversion of our ancestors' stories, and it's a reversioning of them without any context for a design aesthetic from Europe.
We went to Mallorca as a Rōpū World Indigenous Tattoo and Cultural Festival.
Anaru and I didn't realise the amount of, you know, what's that word, plagiarisation that's going on, you know.
We saw this guy and he's walking in, long black hair, plait, sunglasses in Mallorca and his tifana. Thought he was a Māori and he walked straight past us and going, hang on a minute. Because another moko would never ignore another moko, you know? And so when we see these non-Māori people wearing our patterns, it's a little bit of takahi mana, you know? And so first and foremost, we kind of look at who did that, you know? Who was the artist that did that, and how do we educate people to stop that?
There are waves and waves of non-Māori, non-Polynesian artists being lauded as the Polynesian or Māori experts or specialists.
I really like Māori design. I like the flow of it. I think it fits the body better than any other design on the planet. But the modern Indigenous jealousy over certain cultures, embracing the culture, I feel is a modern thing. We're in a multicultural world where everybody is mixed blood nowadays. There is no one bloodline anymore. So I think we need to be more open to sharing.
When we come through with a voice, people think it's just Māoris being rah, rah, all the time. So we actually need to come to them with a civilised kōrero so they understand where we're coming from.
We can have a powerful influence on the international people abusing our art form. But we've got to be really careful that we just don't go wee wah wah with it as well.
I think at a festival like this, there's got to be some clarity around who can be invited and the sorts of work that should be shown. I mean, I'd say that almost 50% of the work here is European, you know, with European artists doing Pacific-esque te tau.
If somebody was upset that I was embracing their art, I'd have an awful lot more time and patience to listen to somebody who come and talk to me from a point of view of reason to try and educate me. Whereas if somebody comes with an aggressive approach, not willing to listen to any other side, then I have no time to listen to that.
If somebody was upset at what I'm doing, then maybe they should do it better or really stand up and work together to bring it back. Otherwise it will die and it'll become a tourist attraction. Disneyland. You know?
The Maoris were very sensitive. At the same time as all the other Polynesians were going and like spreading their work, the Maoris were keeping it to themselves. And now after 20 years, they're opening up and they're coming out to events like this and sharing their culture. And that's a very positive thing. Some of them are still very militant, but yeah. Like I said, it's a process they have to go through, and hopefully they'll come out on the other side and be ready to join the rest of us.
Probably us as Māori people are more inclined to say, nope, this belongs to us. And that's kei te pai. If that's our stance on it, that's our stance on it.
You get a lot of negativity, especially from people where something's lost to them and they feel that somebody else is taking it. And I feel that's kind of wrong because my idea of it is to use my experience to try and give it back. And that's all it is, you know. So if people get upset like that, then that's probably their problem, not mine. Yeah.
Yeah, me te tino pōhehea, you know. Me noho tira tātou, me noho wānanga tātou, e me whakaputa I tētahi, you know, tētahi kōrero e meana, me kaue pēnei. The end goal is that they stop bastardising our tohu. And so we're going to go home, wānanga, wānanga, wānanga.
Anei te moko. Nā haku tīpuna, nā haku mātua, nā taku marae, nā taku iwi, nā taku kapa haka. Ko te tuhi, he whakatinanatanga I wērā mea katoa.
Ko ngā mahi moko, no Mairano, no Onamata, he maha ngā tūmomo whawhai, he maha ngā tūmomo taumahatanga kua pākirunga I te iwi Māori mo tēnei mea te moko. Nā reira, mo era tangata e kōrero ka whai rātou I ngā mahi moko, e kanoho rātou ki Tāwāhi, kei te he.
Overseas tattoo artists taking advantage of our designs, that hurts, you know, because they just have not taken any time whatsoever to study what the hell it is they're doing.
These Western European tattooists who are happy to put it on people without having a clue about what it signifies to the people who it comes from.
It's misappropriation for sure. Yeah, it's like I wouldn't go into your granny's house and steal something and then use it as my own and say, this is mine, and sell it.
What's worse is they think that they have a right to, that they're not doing anything wrong, because they're still doing it. They're still doing it.
The difference between a Māori tattooist doing tā moko and a Pākehā tattooist, from my experience, was just the ceremony, the tradition, the karakia, the mauri, the energy around it, the space that you'd be in while doing that. It was just felt right.
Te tuhi tui, 0.5%. Ko tō Māoritanga, koe nā te moko. Koe nā te moko.
As someone who would like to receive a moko, would you prefer to go to a Western guy to get sort of a wishy-washy version of a tattoo, or would you prefer to go to a Māori guy who knows exactly what he's doing and get a real deal?
When I first came over to Europe, I had my fist in the air and I was waving it about, because our things that we're facing in New Zealand is nothing compared to what's happening over here. There are a lot of people that will take advantage of not just moko, but our culture, because for them it makes money. And they're amazing tattooists and probably good people, but they're not invested in the same way as we are, because they don't belong to it.
I think the thing that got to me most being in Europe was seeing all the people that aren't from here with their faces done, especially knowing that back home a lot of Māori men still are conflicted with the idea of getting their own faces done.
There's so many situations where I've sat there and there's been a guy, you know, standing there and he goes, and, you know, I've totally ignored him. And he's gone, oh, so what do you think? You know, like, what do you think about what, bro? And he's like, oh, about my Moko. I said, oh, what's a Moko? And, oh, my tattoo on my chin. And I said, it's for a wahine, bro, it's for a woman. And he's like, oh, how do I make it for a man? And there are people that say that they're tohungas and that they're masters at what they do and that they have followers.
I see a lot of these non-Māori artists, they've set their fame in foreign countries by doing our designs, and then they go, but we're well known for it. And we're like, not amongst our people. You know, our artists check themselves all the time. They're responsible to their communities. You've just went and spent a bit of time with someone and now you say that you're an expert. It's not the same.
I've got an Italian guy that calls me master. I don't know where he gets it from and I don't know why he does it. Even when we say, no, bro, I haven't taught you anything. I'm not your teacher. They don't want to hear that.
One of those guys came over to me and asked me to put some moko on his hand. And I was hesitant to do it because I knew he was going to start copying what I did on his hand in his own mahi. Well, he asked me, do you mind that I do moko? And I said, well, yeah, I do mind that you do moko. And then he said to me, how would you feel if I came to New Zealand and told Māori, you guys aren't making pizza anymore? Because he was Italian. And I was like, you comparing moko to pizza is exactly why you shouldn't be doing moko.
Pērā tātou ki tēnā tātou ka ngaro te mana o aua moko ki te whakamahi pērā tia I rātou.
I wouldn't regard any of the tattooing that I do when it's inspired by indigenous cultures to be any particular form. I wouldn't say that I do Maori tattooing and I don't do Polynesian tattooing. I take inspiration and I do a Maori-inspired tattoo.
Quite often they use the term inspired by to kind of make out like they're not directly pinching. But inspired by would mean you'd have to have some of theirs and some of yours. But there's none of theirs. It's just all everyone else's.
Koe te tangata kāle ki rātou te hi, e kia mōho rātou te i ngā ratika, I te mahi hana rātou, ki te mahi wa rātou mahi, te wai rātou mahi ana.
a hako te ataho o ngā mahi. Kaere ai mohi o te mauri o taua mahi. Kaere ai e mohi o te mauri o aua tohu.
Definitely I have a lot of thought and teaching from the people I've met over the years on how the patterns become true meaning. And then that varies from te whunga to te whunga as well, you know. I mean, I remember one guy I was carving with years ago, he told me this means this, and then the next day it meant something else, and the next day it was something else again. So it is a story, you know. With all my work, I take the design and I try and find out where its roots were, where the design comes from in nature. So mine is more in a raw form from nature, which I think is before these thoughts.
Kua kite, kua rongo kōrero a wahau, we tahi Pākehā e mea ana, e harana te Māori wēnei tohu no te mea I ahu mai I te taiao. Muzunga mai o te rāpu I uera. E harana te rākau I tuhi tuhi, nā te hinengaro Māori, te koi me te tau o te hinengaro Māori, wērā I tiki atu ai.
Cultural appropriation has been sort of a buzzword just within the last handful of years, and people are claiming ownership.
Some people see appropriation as a buzzword. Well, the reason it's a buzzword is because we've had to use it a lot lately. It doesn't mean it's not true.
It's not usually the tattooists. The tattooists often, they want to share their culture, but a lot of people outside the tattoo world, they think that something's being stolen from them.
In the culture of Western tattooing, a lot of that art form comes from copying, from reproducing images, and there's great skill in that. But there is a huge difference between being a tattooist and a moko artist. And I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but there is a difference.
It's happening under the guise that moko is part of the tattoo world, that it's to be shared in the same way that other forms of tattoo are shared. But moko is significantly different because it is derived from whakapapa in a way that other forms of tattoo do not share.
You know, there is a matrix system that exists within the realm of moko, and only that artist will know about it.
It frustrates me that people from overseas, they've never even been here before, so for them to just copy our markings, putting them on people and making up this spiel really infuriates me. And they can't get in trouble over there because our people are here, not knowing what people are doing over there.
I come from Holland, but my boyfriend is from New Zealand, but I haven't been there yet. Well, we first did the throat. Then we liked it so much and it's so elegant. And then we say, oh, it would be very cool to match the hands. Here at the side is more Hawaiian inspired. And here is more Tahiti and Marquesian. And then the Malu is more Samoan. I didn't realize that I had actually quite a collection of different kinds of tattoos in the Pacific. Yeah.
E whakamahi powenga ana e ngā iwi o. Engari he mea nui tera mea wāna ngā kātika I ki te tātou te tehirongoa. I te mea kale ki au moana ki te tehirongoa haunga I te wānanga ki aua iwi e mohoai rātou ki ngā tapu, e mohoai rātou haha ngā tikanga mo e ne momo tau I te whakamahi ngā ne rātou.
A koe la nā whakatūpato tana mā tātou. Ke korai e pēra, ke korai te tana te mau I lune tōna pū he tata. Nā te mea, kai te pēra hia te rā tauma o te moko me te tīwhana.
Ko tēnei raru I Pāmoe ai whāna ki a Sally Anderson. Ko ira tētahi o ngā kaupapa ngā mea taumaha o tēnei mea te moko I tēnei tautonu.
Nā te whai a tētahi wahine Pākehā, hara a Sally Anderson I te moko kauai.
Everyone was just really angry that a Pākehā woman got her face marked with a moko kauai.
It is absolutely not okay, in my opinion, for non-Māori to wear facial moko. That is our domain, that is our birthright, that is inherently linked to our whakapapa, to our tupuna.
When the Sally Anderson debate come up, our wahine went hard, which was awesome. And none of our tāne were coming forward and supporting our wahine at that time. So we had to show support from us as people that wear tifana.
You know, I think that it doesn't matter if you have children that are Māori and a partner that's Māori. There's an understanding that moko kanohi on the face is a link to our whakapapa. If you understood that, you would never claim to want to wear it if you were non-Māori.
Ko tōna toru rau tāngata I tuhi kōrero mai a neke atu I te whitu tekau ōrau ō rātou I ki, kāre I te pai.
I did feel sorry for her from all the hate that came out of that. I'm pretty sure there was like a lot of death threats and for her and for the artist as well.
Everybody has an opinion about it, but not necessarily even understand anything about the essence of what moko is about.
What really struck me about that whole kaupapa was just how our own people talk to each other.
If somebody's just shooting off at the mouth and, you know, death threats and all this sort of stuff, that's just bloody bull. You know, that's just worthless. It's not actually adding anything to the kaupapa at all. What people don't realise is this guy has been involved in the arts for well over 30 years.
You know, it was like this whole ropu, a couple of carfuls of people all descended upon here for a moko kauai appointment. And the person was Sally Anderson. And they wanted to whāngai her into their family and they wanted to gift her a moko kauai. So I said, yeah, okay.
Took me 2.5 years to actually accept for her to have it done. When you judge a person and you haven't met them, what does that make you?
In my family, if someone's whāngaied into your family and then they have land rights, then they quote your whakapapa as part of their whakapapa and they are accepted wholly into the family. So when these whānau turned up here and saying they were whāngaiing Sally, then I couldn't see any problem with that. We're quick to judge, but we know that her whānau backed it. So who are we to whakaiti the mana of her family? Turns out, 6 years later, she starts using the kauai as a brand for her self-marketing, which goes down like a bucket of sick in Māori, and rightfully so, she gets pulled up on it. But the sad thing was that a lot of people made the debate about race, and race is a really sticky subject. Sally Anderson didn't disrespect the Tā Moko because she was Pākehā. She just did it out of a little bit of ignorance and lack of guidance.
The Sally Anderson issue comes from a place of mamai, I think, for a lot of our people. At that particular point of time was definitely undergoing a resurgence, and the idea that someone could kind of walk in and interrupt that and the whole, what everyone else had put themselves through to get to that point where we felt like it was for us and we were freer to take it on and we weren't persecuted.
I understood the Maimai, and they felt like this woman's gotten something that they felt that they should be entitled to, which was great. And that was the point that was amazing. Several women that I know have felt the strength from that debate to go out and get their moko kauai, and good on them for it, because it became up that they were enough.
Really what happened in that debate was the understanding by Māori women from across Aotearoa that it is indeed their birthright. We have seen an incredible hike in this resurgence, particularly amongst women attaining moko kauae since that debate.
To have a woman that hasn't had the same experience as us get it done was, I think, really painful for a lot of us to see. And it did like affirm to us that if she can get it done and she's Pākehā, like, what are we waiting for, you know? We're good enough now. We don't have to be old to get it done. We don't have to know everything to get it done. We're going to learn with it.
Ka tupu mai koe i te kōpū Māori, nō hau tēnā taonga. Engari, me mai ai roto i au te tangata, te kaiwhiwhi, ka tāia aia te kaue i tērā Māori o te kauai.
It was Mark Kopua that started writing on Facebook, educating everybody about what it meant to wear one. And I think a lot of us, well, especially me, like I thought, oh wait, like I'm a Māori woman, I have the whakapapa, I've given birth to my babies. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get it done. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah.
Aku whakaaro mo te hunga e whakahē ana i ngā mahi o ngā rangatai. Kaua kei te ki me mutu tērā mai. Me mea ko te moko, me te tā o te moko ki rungi a rātou, ka ora te ihi o tērā, o te hungara, ara hina a rātou ki tērā huarei.
You know, so whether they take it on or not is not the point. Our responsibility is to shift the post, you know, and create safer places for them. So they can be whoever they want to be.
You know, when this whole thing with Sally Anderson erupted, and some of us practitioners were online, just created a group just to discuss about the issues, and Rangi Kapa he piped up and said, man, you know, things like this gets the debate going and we actually start talking about it. And he was like, man, in 5-10 years, can you imagine what Aotearoa is going to look like? Because everybody's going to be facing up, you know. It's going to be everywhere. It's going to be normalized again, back to like what it was before pre-European times.
Ka aro hoki anau, ngā moko tapu, te moko mataora, te moko kauae, te puhoro, me tapu kia tātai, wera moko.
These are three of the visual metaphors of our culture. Out of all the things that we showcase to the world and showcase to the country, I think this is the last bastion of our identity that should remain with us.
Leave it alone. This belongs to us. This belongs to us. This is sacred. The tapu.
The facial moko tradition and the resurgence of it today is probably the closest thing that we've got in the pursuit of Māori people trying to find their true selves again.
These are identity markers. These are representations of who we are and where we've come from. The symbols involved in these markings are mairano. They're ancient and they connect us to things that are ancient in our world. It's not just about ink on your face.
You're carrying around tupuna, you're carrying around such mana. The stories and the whakapapa that go into that is huge.
It's a beautiful process in the transition from having nothing on here to having something on here where it's not only you're treated differently, but you have a responsibility.
When we look at ourselves in the mirror, who we see is our identity. To go into the next step of superimposing, a tribal identity on top of that is, it's a different step.
Anyone that takes this into their skin on their faces has to understand it's their future and it's their world, but it's a legacy which is material, which is visible, and which is meaningful about us.
I think we're witnessing the tipping point in moko now, where actually body moko will become secondary to taking on of facial moko. That for me is kind of like the greatest vote of confidence in ourselves that we could ever kind of exercise.
The demand is getting more and more all the time. In the last 4 months, I've done quite a few moko kauai. I get the odd one who rings up, who wants males and that, who want the moko kanohi, and I'm always a bit shy because, you know, I feel like sometimes I need to know them better.
It doesn't matter whether you're Māori or whether you're non-Māori, you still have to jump the hoops. It's still a process. And that process is there for a good reason. It's to suss out whether or not you're worthy of it. If I say no to not wanting to do somebody, it's because more than likely it's their attitude, you know.
Kua mehe mea e āhua he mano ana au ki te kaiwhiwhi, kua kore au te tā i taua kauai. Hara i te mea te whakaiti tangata, engari me mai ai roto i au, kei te hoatu au i tēnei tino taonga, me taia koe te kawe.
Ki au nei, e nā he toto Māori he whakapapatau, ka taia e koe, engari kei te rite.
Anyone that marks her or his face has to be ready for the questions, for the challenges from not just ignorant Pākehā from Ashburton, but our own. Because many of the most critical and probing comment comes from other Māori.
Me te mea nei te wā e tāngia taku kanohi ki ngā tohu nei, pēnei tonu ko ngā tuaheke me te waha nei, me taku ihu. Ko moa tonu au ka kite hoki au I roto I ngā mirror nei, o rere ke te hanga o tēnei tangata. I taku hara I te mataku, engari ka he momo weri tērā, ke putātau I wānganui te iwi me te kanohi hou.
He pōhehe ka mau I runga I te whakaaro o te whaimana, engari kāo, āhua pauri tēnā, nā te mea me kaha whakanui tātou I o tātou taonga, ne ko te moko he taonga.
Kau ke take me rangatira koe ki te whiwhi I tō kauai, tērā te pōhehe nui.
You know, you have all this imagery floating around like the Goldies and the Lindauers, and a lot of those people that he painted were mainly rangatira. And so I think that may have played a part in the collective consciousness of Māori that there was only certain ranks of people that received moko kanohi, you know.
Kei te rongo kōrero wahau me kahato reo Māori, me pēnei, me mutu te momi paipa, me mutu tō inu waipiro, me rite tō te prihi nei, te pihopa nei tō hanga. Mutu ngā mai o te rūpahu e rā kōrero. Whānau mai koe he Māori, kei ā koe. Ko te hunga e mau ana I te moko, e tika ana ngā whakaaro. Pana engari kāreke au pēr au e whakaaro, e whakaia ana ki te kōrero Moko of the World. E whakaia ana ki te kōrero Moko of the Worthy. Ana ko I rā te worthy, ko te hunga e kai ngā kauhiana I tō rātou whānau, e tautoko nuiti ana I tō rātou whānau. Kaua e a wangawanga I kama, te nuinga o te ao nei, te nuinga o tātou te wi Māori, te nuinga o tātou I tikana. Engari tērā o I te kāre tikana. So koina te kōrero mea nei, moko ia ngā mea I tikana. Koina.
I remember a going to the wharepaki and standing in the mirror and thinking, man, this is about to get real. This is about to change my life.
There's a really strong consciousness of not just how you are seen, but how you see yourself.
Nō reira ki au nei, ko te tino me ki, te tino mahi moku, te whakahonore e takutanga, me ki me mau. Me mau I te mata ora, me mau I te mata tūhua.
To see somebody come in with nothing, to walk out fully kitted out, is something, you know.
Pātana te hui ki tō kiri, koeira te mutuna. Kāre koe kaha ke te u kui te rā ke makere.
By now, we're well and truly on our way to revival. You know, we're really starting to stamp our mark upon our people, and our people are becoming more and more receptive to it and a bit more knowledgeable about it.
We need to start believing in ourselves more and really look at the positivity of our art, our creativity, of our language, of our culture, and of ourselves.
You know, we've gone through a transformational change. We've gone through this kind of artistic and cultural revolution where we're flexing our muscle, you know.
It shows the rest of the world who we are, you know, it identifies us as a particular type of person.
Ko te mea nui pe o te mau I tēnā tohu, ko te kawe I ngā wāriu e hanga I puana ki e rāmai. Pērā I te noho whakaiti, pērā I te noho ki tō mara, I te mana ki tō iwi.
To me, when I see someone with a moko on their face, it suggests leadership, you know, authority, someone that I can talk to, someone that I can trust, someone that has knowledge, you know, a well-rounded person.
Ke mahi awe nei mahi, kaere ai hiki tōu mana ko koe noa. Kaere mō te tanata, enari mō tātau. Tērā hei kōkiri a tātau katoa.
To put on something that is so blatantly in the face of everybody that sees you is like, it's quite a political statement. And for me, it was a political statement. And I believe that's typical of a lot of people who are starting to put it on.
E pēnei te kōrero a e tai, mena he tarata ka tīmatai tēnei mahi ko koe tēnā. Koe rā nō tā rātai kōrero. E nā mea tū e kōrero mai ia hau huri noa ki te rohe pōtai.
I do remember when Tami got his face done. He, you know, as soon as this kaupapa of Moko started to resurface, he was one of the first ones to put his hands up and said, yep, I'll do it.
Nō reira me kipe, ri matau kau e whakamātau tau ana ki taku ia hautonu. Me he mea kai te tika tērā mahi, nā te mea e hara kau ki te moko I tō kanohi, a tērā ka au kui ai ke kōrero a pōwhō.
I've worn mine now since 2007. I was one of 16 women who were inscribed on the anniversary of the death of my beloved Ariki-in-Chief, Te Ariki Nui, Dame Te Ātairangi Kāhu. And it was suggested by her aunt. She quietly said, why don't we do this? And we did.
Ai, nā turu mākina tunu taku kanohi I tā kia mau au ki taku matora. He tauira tunu ai tērā wā, ka horere tunu ai ia, me te mea nei ko tōna tohunga tēnei e tono atu ki aia.
man, and that was another handshaking moment. Just breathe, and focus on what you're doing and get through it.
Me te mea nei, i te wā i takoto anau, i reira, e tehe oku hoa, Ricky Manuel mā, Derek mā, rātou te rāu reanga. E āta mā taki ana i te poine e mahi ana i ana mahi. Ka are weri ana, ka are ahan. Ka tika tunu ana mahi. Engari e tuhunga te poira, e tuhunga.
I think as a teacher, that's your crown and glory right there. To have your students excel beyond, what you would have thought that, you could have done with this shell.
Gordon was the one that told me that I should get my kauai done, and I thought he was crazy. And I was like, hey, no, I can't do that. But then I felt this sense of urgency, like I needed it. I didn't want to wait anymore. And me and Hirini were in the studio one morning. So I said to him, what do you think about me getting my moko kauai done? And he goes, yep, let's do it. So he drew it up. I breastfed my baby and I put him to sleep, and then we did my moko kauai. And it felt like the most natural thing that I've ever done. And I looked at myself like, this is how I was always meant to look.
I really wanted kauai and black lips from a very early age. I asked my mother, how would she feel if I had kauai? She just said no. I was like, wow, okay, stop. And so I've been practicing for 20 plus years now, and I asked her again, and she said, yes, I understand. I was like, really? And then asked my dad, and he was, you need to talk to all the old people. I was like, okay, I'll do that. And then he said, you need to make sure it's okay.
When I became a mama, I decided that I needed to get on this journey quickly so that her only memory of me was with moko kauai. I was really fortunate to get to know Chris Harvey, and she came on this journey with me, assisting me in design, assisting me in preparing myself, I guess, in a way that that meant that when the day came, I was fully ready, I was excited, and so too were my whānau.
Mai maharawa hau tētahi rā e puta au ki te kāinga o Uncle Mark, ana ka kuhu mai ngā kōka. E ono e waru pia. Ka kuhu mai ki roto I te whare. Ka tō rātou he moko o rātou, I runga I o rātou kauai. Ka kōrero mai mō te kaha o te wahine o te teirāwhiti ki te maumoko, engari te kore take o te tāne ki te maumoko. Kāri kōrero tōtika mai, engari ta titiro koro taha mai ngā whatu ki awa me te mea nei I te wero taku tuara, ke kama taku haere ki te maumoko I runga I taku kanohi. Koe nā te take, ana, mutu tō tērā noho tahi o wera kōka ōku ki te tepu, ka puta wahau ki waho ki te kōrero ki a Uncle Mark me te mea te, pirangi awa hau, te maumoko I runga I taku kanohi.
Mark Corporate did my kanohi, and that was just one of those landmark moments of this life-changing thing, as you could imagine. It definitely injects a whole new Māori into your being. You have all those nerves and butterflies going on, but then once the process started, it's like a meditation. You just go into this space.
There's certain parts where there's a lot of nerves. And when the gun hits that or the chisel hits that, it's serious pain. Serious pain, and you got to stay still. And lucky I had our whanaunga Tami present, and he kind of leans over, so I look at his moko, and I go, yeah, he's been there, the pain. He just leaned over and he goes, it doesn't come easy. You have to.
So after the process had finished, we were hungry, so we decided to go walk up to K Road to get something to eat. You're walking up the street and there's people are just going like this and walking into power poles and stuff. I felt proud as, yeah, really proud feeling. Not because everybody was looking at me, but because this was a tohu rangatira, you know, a tohu that was handed down, a taonga. So it was a real life-changing moment, for sure.
Ko roa hau e hikoai ana I roto I ngā mahi Kapa haka, koe nei tōku ao, ngā mahi tūruhi, koe anō he whakatairanga I te taha Māori, te taha rangatira, taku mahi nui. Whakaro ai au, ai, ko tae mai, pēr te wā, e tikana kia mau I te moko. Hei aha, hei whakahonore I wō tātou mātua tūpuna. Koe nā te tino o ngā whakaro. Tīmata rāhai. Wehi I te tuatahi engari I kauru mai ki te ngākau. Ai pēr, ko tae mai te wā. Mai e te pūkenga, mai e te wānanga, mai e te maire, mai e te tūtaunga. Koi rero ngā pū, ngā more, ngā ue, ngā take, ngā... He hoa, turu mākina ki au. Tino hoa nei. Ke te au I aia me wāna mahi putana I te pukamata, I runga I te ipurangi rāne, te atāhua o wāna mahi. E haere au ki mo orea, ka ki te au I aia I reira, e mahi ana I ngā mahi. A me te atāhua hoki. Ka tau ngā whakaro, ko ia te tangata tika, ai tā mai I taku kiri. Ko tau te ngākau, ai. Koe nei te ara tika, hei whai māk I tēnei wā. Tonu nei, o tōku au. Te ata tonu o te rā I te rā tāmoko, ko tau ngā whakaro, ko tau te ngākau, kua rite katoa aha. Ai, nā reira I hari koa taku ngākau, I te puhutanga, māmā noho te ahakoa ngau mai ana te mamai, māmā noho te whakaitanga o te ngākau. E muri mai o ngā ngaunga, ko te atāhuatanga ka wai homai. I reira ngā whakaro, I reire haere ana, I au e takoto ana I roto I te wharenei. Me ngā whakaro mō ngā tūpuna, ngā whakaro mō taku taha whakatohea, taku taha te arawa, tēnei tupuna o ko rangitihi tēnei tuake nei no reira. Kare kau he pakurere ketanga o tōku ao. Whiti tonu ana te rā, mahi tonu ana te tangata I ngā mahi. Kome me tonu ana ngā tamuiriki. Me taku wahine, ai, koina, uri tonu ana te ao, kare herere ketanga. Ko aku kupu whakamanawa pēr whakatena tēnā rānei I te hunga e whakaaro ana kia tāmoko ia. O rātau kiri, kia mau te mataora, kia kahara, kaua e mataku. Me nā, ki o whakaaro e tikana, mahi a te maki. Hoake, e mea tāhua. Koe anō, koe nei te tua kiritanga o te Māori. E pai ana, kia au te mau, I taku moko. I nā haere au ki Tāwāhi ki hea rānei. E whakaatu I taku taha Māori, taku taha rangatira, ki te ao. E whakatairanga tonu I tō tātou ahurea. Ko te atāhuatanga, kai te mau tonu I roto I nei rā tunu nei. Nō reira, ai, ko whakaete ngā kau, e tū tangata Māori ana, e tū kaha ana I roto I tēnei ao. Koina!
When I let Mum know that I was receiving my kowai, I was pretty hesitant, and I let her know a couple of days before. Her instinctive reaction was, she said that you've erased the final part of me. And that really kind of struck me, that she didn't understand the process. But also, I said to her, I walk in your world, that is my dominant world, and my father's world is largely lost to me when he passed. So when I came back from Tahiti, I didn't really think about, you know, coming back with my kauai. I was really just still on a high. By the time my image had gone on Facebook, a lot of her friends had made public comments and said, oh my gosh, Julie, you look great. And so that almost mediated my return. And then when I first connected with my mum, yeah, there was nothing, not a thing. We've never had the moment. We've never had the moment where she's said anything about it. Yeah, which is really unusual, because she'll normally say something about, when did you get that tattoo? Or, you didn't get another one, you know? But this one, we've never actually broached the conversation that we'd had before. And I'm thinking maybe she's accepted that it hasn't changed me and it hasn't changed the rest of me, and, you know. I don't think since I've had my moko kauai that anyone has challenged me on it. Possibly I haven't had contact with those people that might, but if anything, I get a lot more auntie. I certainly noticed that. As soon as you have a kauai, you become an auntie.
When anyone ever asks me, I always tell the story about my dad, because I knew he had issues with it, and I understand why he had them, you know. He was brought up in the time he was brought up. But what he did for me was he didn't make it a cultural thing, he made it a man-to-man thing. And when he came to me, because I didn't know how to approach him, and in the end he just came to me because he heard I had gone all the way around Tauranga talking to all these people. And then he said to me, why did you come to me last? And I was like, oh, because I didn't know how to approach you, because I knew you were going to say no. And he goes, well, I actually wasn't going to say no. If you had come to me first, I would have said to you, why do you need to go and ask all those people in Tauranga Moana if you're man enough to wear this marking? In my world, I believe that a man wouldn't have had to ask. You would have just laid down and got it, son. And that's why I wanted you to know, because I wanted to know that you were ready on your own. At the end of the day, it's like going to be you that does it. Yeah, and like there'll be these people that might rub your back and support you along the way, but then if you don't do it for yourself, you're not actually going to do it or achieve it. And that's all I wanted to say. And then I said to him, well, can you come, Dad? And he's like, no, because you came to me last. Yeah, and so that taught me heaps about myself, because he was right too, because I was looking for validation, you know, and it was probably the part in the journey where I didn't need it anymore because I had done enough too. I think that's what he was basically saying to me. But yeah, I was like, maybe I'm not ready, you know, but everything was organised. People were turning up, maraes had been booked and all this. But when I woke up in the morning and I talked to my kids and, you know, because, you know, it's just another day for kids. Dad's getting his moko today. And they're like, yeah, just carry on. And I just thought, yeah, just carry on, just like they did. Then when I did see my dad afterwards, yeah, I think we both shed a tear. We'll probably say we didn't. But yeah, we both sort of shed a tear. Just because I think he realised that, yeah, I was still his boy. And I just realised that, oh, yeah, he actually taught me something. Yeah, I know a lot of people say, oh, no, the moko won't change you. But it can if you wanted to. Yeah, just by going through those processes of tupuhi, like surrendering to the process and letting the taonga go deep within.
E hihe nau te para I tōku ake hikoi. He hikoi moko, kia taia e au te whakatinana I aku kōrero. Ka tau mai māua ko taku pōtiki I te ata nei. Heoi I mua I tō mātou tainga mai I te ohorere ke tō mātou wairua o mātou pūmanua I runga anō I te mōhio. Ko tau ke mao ki te kāinga. Ko taku kāinga tēnei, ko te kāinga tēnei o taku tupuna, kahi take moana harawira, ko aia te menita i roto i tēnei hāhi tonu. He mea nui te haere mai ki tēnei whenua me taku pōtiki. I tapaina tana ingoa ko kahi take moana harawira. Me te āhua kua hoki mai anō taua ki te kāinga. I tau pai te whakaaro ki au i te ata nei, ka rongo i te Māori, ka whiwhi au i taku kauai i tēnei whenua motuhake i te pōnei. Kia whakarangatira i taku pāpā, taku tupuna, a kahi taki moana, e tika ana me whiwhi i taku kauai ki tēnei whenua motuhake.
Kia wai ho, tia ki mahina nui te pō, mahina nui te pō. He ko te uhi ko, whāna, hara mai te uhi. Haumi e,
tai ki e.
Tia mai e tātou, Māori o muri whenua, kia whiwhia, ngā tonga nei o ngā tupuna. In all honesty, it feels pretty normal, and I wish I just got it 10 or 20 years ago, you know, and it feels like it was always meant to be. I'm in a really happy, positive space. It makes me happy to know that we, the artists, and also we, the receivers, are pulling it back to what it originally was. It solidified a lot for me, you know. It was reconnecting what we'd kind of lost.
O kua ke tīpuna, o kua koe mātua, whawhai rātou, tāmea rātou, patua rātou, mo te pupuri i te Māoritanga. Taku whakareanga, me ngā whakareanga i raro aka i āhau, i kaha te poipoi, te aki a mātou kia puritia tō mana Māori motuhake.
I look at our kids now and I kind of think, far out. It's such a massive paradigm shift. And, you know, I can just see the next 10 years being just exponential growth. Yeah. I think that our future is really bright. I really do.
Mea ka pēnā hui te paraikete te tikanga i runga i te taonga nei ka mate noa atu, ka ngarono atu. Nā reira me āta hanga te tikanga kia ora. Koera tōna tō tino, tō mātou tino kaupapa kia ora te taonga nei.
Kau e tai ka harawa te titiro a tētai. Ki tētai e tātou katoa i enei rā. Tuna nei e ako ana.
I think that's what the future holds, actually. A lot more Māori are going to be more accepting of each other wearing moko kauai, moko kanohi, and stop putting expectations on us. Yeah.
Nā te mea kai kunei nā taono, e maha nā kōrero. Tautoko hia tā tātou kaupapa o te tīwhanga o te mo.
Kai te ora tonu tō tātou taonga te moko i nānei. Ai, kai wī kai wā, ki au nei he tirohanga tino pai, ki te kiti te nā kauai, kai wī kai wā mata ora, he miharo.
Te moko i ngā āhuatanga katoa te Māori e ora tonu ana. Me taku whakapono ake, ka ora ake āpopo.
The future for moko and kanohi and kauai, yeah, it's totally going to be normalised. You know, it's just a matter of time. Aotearoa hard.
Kia kāra tātou, Māori mai ki te mau i ngā wāri, ngā tikanga, ngā kawa o tātou mātua tipuna. Kia kore me meha, kia kore e takai. Kia ura tātou ki ngā tāonga o rātou. Kia tika, kia pai, kia nui. Rā ko te me nui o tērā, ko te whakaiti. Kia hala tātou tino whakaiti.
When I look at the image of the tohunga tāmoko, the first thing I want to do is cry. But my second emotion is complete joy, complete utter happiness. And realising we are the modern version of what's going on here. And seeing the similarities just made me so happy. So happy. With the amalgamation of artists today, the level of mātauranga around Moko, I don't think there's ever going to be a time and space where it can be like that again. It's well alive.
Ko te reo, te take.